Hi everyone. Please let me know if the audio is working well, if everything is okay. Um, Today I only have one person to give feedback to, so if anyone has any links that they want me to check out, feel free to post them here. Awesome, thank you. Feel free to post the links here, and I will get to them after this. And if not, if you have any questions, be it about something that you're struggling with in terms of your own shot, or something about the industry that you're curious about, or that you're wondering, or about life. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist, but I have free time if you guys want. So I'm gonna start now with feedback. But yeah, if you guys have anything you want me to look at, feel free to post it in the chat. And let me share. So, I was checking this out earlier, and I have to say, the main reason why Daniel, Madison, and I give feedback and give it for free as well is because of people like Anush. He took the feedback that I gave him last week and he applied it super well. And he's not even feeling well, and he applied the feedback super well. That's the most rewarding thing, when someone is understanding the notes, applying them correctly, and pushing them to the next level. So this I love. Like when I saw this exercise, it made me super happy. Just wanted to praise him a little bit because this was fantastic. I do have a few notes because even when something is good, you can always make it better. And this is something for everyone. I'm not the best. I just gave you notes. You applied them. This is something that also people are like, "Oh, it's because you gave me feedback and it helped." I can give you feedback. I can give you 30 hours of feedback. But if you don't put in the work and you don't know how to apply it, it's pointless. So my work in this is like 1%. The rest is all you. So great work. Hi for everyone that's just joining in. If you have any links, post them in the chat. So let me start with this. Thank you for putting the ground plane. Super useful. For the first exercise, I checked it out and it's working really, really well. All the different balls read very, very well. I thought the settles were really, really nice. The only tiny note that I have is that on the lightest ball, it feels like the last few, hey Dan, the last few bounces are a little bit too quick. So from 109 till the end, I would just slow them down a little bit, because if you see how it bounces at the beginning, it's very, very soft, and then it feels like it bounces really quickly. So just add maybe 2 more frames to each bounce, and maybe you might need to add a few more bounces. The rest, working super nice. For this one, and this is exactly why I wanted you to do this exercise, because doing a ball in place is doesn't show how you do the settle at the end while moving in space. And what happened here is that the bounce, all of the bounces, great, love them. I didn't check the frame before, after, and before contact, but it seems to be all working really well. Really great. Oh yeah, for sure. If you have questions, feel free. Savala, I haven't checked it yet, but I wasn't sure if you were going to show up here, so I'll open it after I finish this. Hey! So the few tiny things I have on this are, here I would just cut this shot in this frame. In frame for this whole thing sketch link is 254. The reason for this is that right now the ball is suddenly coming back. And if you consider that the ground plane is completely flat, and the ball was rolling to a stop, it just lost all the momentum it had and it just rolled to a stop. And if it stopped and the ground is even, it's not going to come back because there's no force bringing it back. It just rolled to a stop. So I would just cut the shot here. And the other thing, which I was like, ha ha ha, I caught you. This is something that is very common at the beginning until you get the hang of it. So if we look at these stripes, when we play this, it kind of has the feeling that the ball is sliding. Let me just put this from here on. And the reason why it feels like it's sliding is because those stripes are not pivoting. They are touching the ground and then moving a little bit and then continuing. So how do we check that they are pivoting instead of sliding? If we look at, for example, here, this is, I will say this is my pivot because this is when this line is touching the ground. So this is going to be from where it's pivoting, this point. The next frame, this point here has to be in the exact same position, just rotated. So it will be actually around here. The same on the previous frame. This line has to be here. And that's how it pivots instead of sliding. The way that you can do this in Maya is turn on wireframe on shading, and you will get all the wireframe on top of the actual geo. And you can, I know that there's some math that you can do, like some people do it with the math. When I did it, honestly, if you just grab the first time you see the ball doing this and you adjust it manually and visually, you adjust the translation forward, you can just do it manually without math. Yeah, exactly. There is a way to calculate it. In reality, whenever I'm animating, first, I'm not animating that many balls sliding. But even if I did, I'm not doing math when I animate. So if you want to do it with math, feel free. There is a way. I don't know it, to be honest, because I never needed it. And so I didn't do it. There is a way. I'm sure if you Google it, you will find it. If you want to do it by eye, feel free to do it, because honestly, most times you will do a lot of things by eye, unless you work in VFX, and I think there's more chance to do things with math. But if you don't want to do math, by eye. Yeah, here is not about a temp pivot. I don't want a temp pivot. I don't want the temporary pivot. I want the ball to rotate, to roll, rather than slide. This is not about temporary pivots. I'm just mentioning the pivot so that it's visually easy to see this. But there's no changing from where the ball is rotating. There you go. See? There you go. That's the math. Thank you for sharing the math. Whoever wants to try that, feel free. It's a great method because it gets you the rolling very easy. For me, it's like, nah, too much work. I'm too lazy. But it's, again, to each their own. No method is the wrong method. So for this one, I think it was working pretty well. You mentioned that you didn't work on the pendulum, so I'm not going to comment on that. I do have a few notes on the tail, as you can see. So for the tail, what I want you to do for next week is track the tip of the tail. If you're using Maya's motion trails, or if you're used to using Animbot, you can use those motion trails, or you can do it manually by basically putting dots like I do when I track things here, just tracking like this, and then turning on ghosting, whichever. I want you to track it and be mindful of the spacing and the curves, because right now there's a few areas where it can be improved. Cool. See, there's so much math there. Thank you guys for sharing your knowledge. So for this, there's a few areas where we can improve this. So let me turn on this. Here, the reason why I drew the tail like this and I put slightly higher and drag more here is because right now the shape of the tail seems a little bit stiff around here. It feels like it's staying in this position, but considering it's dragging, this is going to be pulled a little bit more and it's going to straighten. And so that's why this is how I drew it. And then this, if we look at the tip of the tail, is in this position. But if we look at the tip here, it's pointing that way. The tip always needs to point at where it was in the previous frame. And that's how you are sure that you're getting really nice arcs and really nice overlap. So here it's just a matter of pointing it this way. And then fixing the next frames accordingly if you need to. Then here, what did I write? Oh, spacing. Sorry, I have so many drawovers. Here I wrote spacing because if we look at the tip here versus here, the spacing is too big and then it's very, very small. So that's why I would change the shape a little bit also so that it points to where the tail was coming from and so that it fixes the spacing. This is why I want you to go throughout the whole shot and track your spacing and arcs on the tip of the tail. I didn't tell you to do that last week because you were still going through understanding how to pose the tail in some areas, but now this would be your polish where you go in and double check everything. Then here, I would still recommend doing this type of shape for the tail when you do an anticipation so that it feels like everything is compressing. It will give you a way nicer payoff when he jumps and releases the tail. It's going to feel like a flick and it's going to feel like he is using the tail to jump. So I would highly, highly recommend doing this type of shape for both anticipations because you have another big jump later on. And I would also add, because I saw that you added a bit of a hold for this, perfect. I would maybe add 3 frames more, maybe even 5 frames. Play with it just so that it holds a little bit and it feels like it's breathing. There's a little bit of a nicer rhythm to the shot, but also because it is going to feel for us like he is really anticipating and then jumping. It's just so that it reads a little bit more nicely. And then here, again, if we look at the spacing of the tip of the tail, it's here and then it's here. It's a bit of a very big gap. So what you can do is you can play with the stretch of the tail, and that is going to compensate for that spacing, that very big spacing. And whatever I'm saying now, use it again for the second jump and also use it in the areas where you feel that the spacing could be better. You can just play with the stretch. And then here, this I just drew over a little bit of a, let's say, more like the tail flowing a little bit nicer as it's releasing, just so that you keep those nice arcs on the tail. Because right now, this is starting to get a little bit awkward because it feels kind of like this shape. And this feels a little bit more like it's flowing from one part to the other. And again, here you can stretch this. For this part, again, if we look at the spacing and the arcs, right now what's happening is that in this particular pose, the tail is going too much to screen right. And so your arc is doing this when it could be much more simple. And that's why I drew it like this, so that it's a little bit more simple and you're playing with the spacing a little bit more. Because right now what's happening as well is that in a lot of the jumps that you have, you are not letting the tail go a little bit higher. It kind of reaches a certain apex instead of keeping on going. Because imagine I don't know how to explain it better, but imagine I have two balls tied with a string. If this one jumps, this one is going to jump afterwards. And when this one drops, this one is still going up. So it's still going to go a little bit higher as the other one comes down. So basically that's it, that they are both connected, but one follows the other. And right now what's happening is that the tail feels like it's moving alongside with the body instead of going a little bit higher and then dropping. I hope that made sense. I know it's not the greatest analogy, but I'm hoping that made sense. And then here again, spacing. Here it feels like the spacing is too big, so I would try to drag the tail a little bit more. And the same here, just keeping that shape and the tip of the tail still pointing at where it was coming from. And the same here. Basically, what I wrote in this is same as the other jump, apply the same concepts. And same here, like let the tail go a little bit higher. And again, here it's all about spacing. Like all of these notes that you can go over and scrub through on your Sing Sketch link are basically about the spacing. That's it. I don't really have any other big notes for this. Maybe in this one, it's just about remember that, again, the whole tail kind of has to be in the same path. And right now, this was your path. And if I... Yes, timing and spacing is everything. I know I'm sounding very repetitive, but it's super important. That's basically the key thing about all of these exercises that in AM would be class 1 are basically to learn timing and spacing. Everything in animation can be boiled down to timing and spacing. There is a lot of other things, arcs, like what's it called, clear posing, blah blah blah, all of these other things. But the thing that reads the most important thing in terms of motion is timing and spacing. So here, see how right now this was the path. Let me draw it with another color. This was the path that it was coming, and suddenly the tail is pointing the other way. That's why I drew it like this, so that you keep the tail in the same path. And again, spacing. So yeah, those are all my notes for you. Honestly, I know that I drew over a lot of things here, but it's not as terrible as it seems. It's just a few notes. The rest is looking super, super great. Do you have any questions on any of your shots? Cool. Awesome. So I hope you feel better soon. And let me go get Savala's link. There we go. And if anyone has any links that they want me to look at, feel free to post them in the chat. If you want to, you can post them on Discord as well, but I'm not going to be opening it that much right now. So if you have any links or if you have any questions, be it about the industry, you're struggling with something with your shot, maybe about Animation Mentor, because I've been there and you want to know something, or I don't know, you're having life problems and you just want to vent, like feel free to post whatever you guys want. Because after Savala's link, I don't really have anything else to look at. So yeah. Savala, anything I should know about this? Are you struggling with something very specific? Are you looking for a specific type of feedback? Anything I should know? And while you're typing, what can I say? Hey! I think I know who you are, Roberta. Are you the guy that I worked with many years ago? I think you are. Body mechanics and lip sync. Great. Don't die. Whenever you feel like you're dying because of animation, like just try to take things bit by bit. Animation is hard, but you're not saving anyone's lives, so don't die. Ah, it's you! Hey, long time. It's so crazy to see people that I worked
should have
with.
realized sooner, but I didn't. Or I guess maybe I couldn't, but honestly, I love you. I should have realized sooner, but I didn't. Or I guess maybe I couldn't, but honestly, I love you.
Cool. So, let me go shot by shot. Did I accidentally draw on here? I don't know, I'm gonna delete that.
Honestly,
Okay, cool. What stage are you in right now? Are you in spline? Are you in polish? Just to know, because the type of notes that I will give you are going to be different depending on what stage you're in. And let me get some tea. Cool. What do you mean the other piece? Like this part? This second shot? Or is there something? Oh, there's something missing from this sequence. Like there's another shot that should be there and it's not here. Oh, yeah, I remember your shot. Yeah. Yeah, it's okay. No problem.
honestly,
To be honest, as is, it's a nice shot on its own. You can just kind of leave it there if you wanted. I'm going to copy this question so that I can go through it after I review this. But I will get to that question.
I should have realized sooner, but I didn't. Or I guess maybe I couldn't, but honestly,
so I'm gonna go the way that I usually like to look at these shots is from the spine, sorry, from the hips to bottom and hips to top. Here, we don't really see much of the legs, so let's just go hips to top. And the reason why I like to do that is because the hips are driving the motion here. And so if the hips have a problem, it's going to affect the rest. So here, this is again, since you're polishing, I can give you the tiny, tiny notes. If we look at the spacing here, see how it's not really that noticeable, but maybe you will see it here. See how it bounces on this frame? Suddenly the spacing is really big on this frame. And I know it's because I also zoomed in a lot, but I could feel it when I was playing it. So if we think about it in terms of the bouncing ball and how the frame before has to be bigger than the frame after when you're changing direction, depending of course on if you're speeding up or slowing down. Here she's slowing down. So here, this is your frame before. Your frame after is pretty much in the same place. So this needs to be a little bit closer. I know it sounds crazy because it's just pixels, but this is when you get into the tiny details. So just a little bit, adjust that spacing and adjust the rest of the spacings that follow so that everything flows nicely. And then here, it kind of gets a little bit weird because I see that there's a lot of motion that she's doing. Like her hips seem to be kind of rotating, but she's kind of in the same line all the time. She kind of hits this, and it feels like she hits a wall. Maybe I would, let me just zoom this out a little bit. Yeah. Again, I would here avoid that kind of bounce that you have where suddenly the hips go to the other side so quickly in this one frame, and then they stop flat. So I would maybe even consider ever so slightly keep moving them a little bit more to the side, and then ever so slightly bringing them back. So just adding maybe one more frame to that stop, and then when it's coming back, just very, very slight, subtle ease.
I should have realized sooner, but I didn't. Or I guess, sorry, but I didn't. Or I guess maybe I couldn't. But honestly,
On the rest, it works fine. So those are the main areas where I noticed it. Oops. Here, I kind of can see that you have this. Oh, I should make this slightly bigger. You kind of have this rotation in Y, but I don't see that rotation changing back to neutral here. Maybe you have it and it's just very tiny, so that's why we can't see it. But if the hips are neutral here in terms of RY, which I think they are, I think you just need to increase that rotation in Y on the hips a little bit more. Again, so that we see it. If it destroys too much of your animation, since you're in polishing, what you can do is instead of using the cog, you can use the IK hips or whichever. I think there's another control, maybe like the lower FK, so not the 3 ones here, but that one, the fourth one, to rotate it, and it's only going to affect the bottom of like the hips. It's not going to affect the chest. So I would add a little bit more of rotation in Y so that we can see that hip motion.
I should have realized sooner, but I didn't. Or I guess maybe I couldn't. But I should have realized sooner, but I didn't. Or I guess maybe I couldn't.
When she says, or I guess maybe I couldn't, personally, I would like to see the hips going up a little bit more. Sorry, I can't English apparently today. I would like to see the hips going a little bit higher here, because basically you're gesturing up with your hands, and that's going to push your chest up, and it's going to ever so slightly push your hips up, and it's also going to give it a little bit more texture, because right now it feels like she's very static. She's very, very static in terms of how much she moves. It feels like she's only moving from the chest up. So if you add a little bit of translation Y, it's going to make her, what's the word? Not just flow a little bit better, but a little bit like everything is connected.
Honestly,
I know I'm searching for another word in my brain, but I can't even remember in Spanish. So I hope that made sense. Cool. And now I'm looking at the chest, and
I should have realized sooner, but I didn't. Or I guess maybe I couldn't. But honestly,
here the same thing. I would double check your graph editor and double check the RY on the chest, because it kind of feels a little bit off in the sense that, let me play it. It feels like the RY kind of hits a wall here, and then it comes forward. Maybe what you can do is have the chest be a little bit more delayed. So delay the RY so that first the hand moves sideways and then the chest follows. Not that it's like the hand moves and then the chest, but rather the hand starts moving and then the chest follows, because right now the movements feel very connected here. And so it would be nice if if the chest RY is a little bit more delayed. No, thank you. I don't want to buy followers. And you're banned. Boom. So if anyone here wants to sell followers, we don't need them.
I should have realized sooner, but I didn't. Or I guess maybe I couldn't, but honestly, I I I should I
For me, this movement here feels a little bit too quick. All of it, like what's happening with the shoulders. Hey, welcome. What's happening with the shoulders and the chest going forward, everything feels a little bit too quick. And before I go into this, for everyone who's new here, for everyone who's new to the channel and to this stream, right now I'm doing open feedback. So if anyone has anything they want me to look at, feel free to send me your links. I saw just now someone posted their link on Discord. Feel free to post a link here if you want any feedback. We have feedback sessions on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, and then special streams on Saturdays. I will talk more about the stream this Saturday after the feedback. But if you can, post your Sing Sketch links here, just because I'm not really checking Discord that much right now. So right now for me, this feels super fast, and I'm not really understanding why she's doing that movement, because it just feels like she did this, but I'm not getting the feeling of why. So what I would try is maybe holding this pose and this movement forward until she starts saying ah, and then she like I and then she goes back. So she's kind of there in that movement and in that emotion a little bit more, and you hold it there. Because if not, for me, this is not telling me much.
I I should I
If not, if you don't want to do that, because I'm gonna give you options, no, it doesn't read as an exhale right now. If you want to have it as an inhale and exhale, which that would totally be fine, instead of doing what I said, or maybe you can kind of mush it up all together, what you can do is, first I would shoot more reference for this area, just so that you can really tell what's happening, and like really do the and do it in the timing that it needs, because for an inhale and exhale you need more time. Right now I'm feeling like you're only doing it with the shoulders and you're not involving either the chest or the hips. So for the inhale, I would first, maybe I wouldn't, let me think about it, because I need to think about it and act it a little bit. Maybe I would start very slow and then start because for an inhale you need to also rotate the chest upwards a little bit. So I would first hold this for a little bit longer so that she's there, and then she goes, and when she goes, that's where the chest will rotate back, and you can push the whole spine forward, but the chest needs to rotate back and it needs to inflate. I think that there is a control. I think there's like a breath control on Aya or something. If not, you can just scale the upper chest control. And first, I would have the chest start inflating and the shoulders would stay back. And then when the chest has inflated more, that's when the shoulders come up. And then I would hold that up position for a few frames so that it feels like she's there inhaling and then releasing. And when she releases, right now, the reason why it doesn't feel like an exhale is that everything is moving at the same time. The chest is going back, the shoulders are coming down. When you're doing a big exhale, which it feels like, now that I understand what you're going for, it feels like it's a big exhale, things need to be more broken up. So that's why I highly recommend reshooting reference, or if you have good reference, go back to it and really scrub through and analyze everything that's going on. And in fact, if after the next critique no one has anything or any questions, I know that I have another question to look at. I will do like a small demo, short demo on how to analyze reference, because I think that a lot of people struggle a lot with that, and maybe my method could help. Yeah, exactly. It feels odd because everything is going this way, and this, if I do it right now, it doesn't feel like I'm exhaling. Cool. Let me just add it to my list of analyzing reference demo. I think I will have time today because honestly, it seems to be a pretty chill day today. So how do we exhale from here? Let me first do it, and then I will, like, I can start with the chest. It will start deflating, but my shoulders might still be up, and then my shoulders come down, and then I release my chest backwards. So it could be something like that. Wow, yeah, sure. I didn't know people would like that demo. I will do it today. It's a really fun one. And analyzing reference is so important because depending on your job, analyzing reference might be your planning, because you might not have time to actually plan a shot. The way that I do my planning right now at work, we have a very, very high quota, at least for a feature is very high. So I don't have time to analyze. I don't have time to plan properly. I don't have time to sit down and do my planning and spend a lot of time thinking about what I'm going to do. So what I do is I shoot reference and I analyze everything that I need. Once I analyze everything that I need, I go in and block it out. And I will show you, I analyze my reference in Maya so that I don't lose time. So I will show you that. I should be opening Maya because that will take a while.
I should have realized sooner, but I didn't. Or I should have realized sooner, but I didn't.
Here in all of this area,
should have realized sooner, but I didn't.
I feel like she's moving.
I
Sorry, I need to check something. Your face is in blocking, right?
Sooner, but
Or at least the eyes, the eyebrows seem to be a little bit in blocking. Just double check that because your eyebrows seem to be in blocking, not even. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Here what's happening is that
sooner, but I didn't, or I guess
it doesn't feel like the chest is connected to the head. And again, I'm not going to handhold you through the shot because I know Zavala. I've known her for her whole AM career, more or less. So I'm not going to handhold you and tell you frame by frame what you're going to do, just because I want you to push yourself. And you know that I want the best for you. So I'm just going to explain what needs to happen, and you need to put that in there, because at work, they're not going to handhold you, usually. So what needs to happen here?
I should have realized sooner.
Right now, she is rotating her head quite a bit. Like she goes from this angle in RY to really this other kind of extreme angle in RY on the head. But if I look at the chest is here. And then here, the chest is even kind of the other way. What needs to happen? Usually when we do this with our head is connected to our neck. And unless we're doing a very specific action that requires us to shift our rotation. So for example, I don't know, I'm walking that way, but someone calls me from behind. I was maybe going somewhere else and someone calls me, then my chest and my head are going to rotate the other way. But if I'm just talking, if I'm just going about life and I'm saying something and I'm exaggerating those rotations, like if you look at, I don't know, here, when I do this, my chest rotates with the head, with an offset. So the head is going to lead and then the chest is going to move. But the rotations are basically going to be the same. If I look that way, my chest is going to rotate that way. If I look that way, like even you can see my hand is moving on its own. I'm not moving it purposefully. My hand is moving on its own when I rotate the head. So what I want you to go and do is check your RY on the chest for all of this area, because I feel that you don't have enough in some parts, and in some part it feels like it's contradicting what the face is doing. A trick that you can do, and again, this is what some people do, it's not my method, but it can work for you. What some people do is they clean up the RY really, really nicely so that you know the RY on the head is exactly what you need. And then what you do is you copy that rotation to the neck, and you copy it to the chest, and you copy it to the hips. And then you offset forward that rotation in Y in each. Like maybe by one frame, maybe by 2 frames. That's something that you need to play and see what looks good. And each time you need to tone that curve down in the graph editor. So you need to scale it down, because if my head is doing this, my chest is not going to rotate all the way. So if I like maybe this curve, like the RY on the head, maybe it's just half in the chest, and maybe it's 1/10 in the hips. But every time that you offset it by 1 or 2 frames, it's going to give you that nice feeling of the head is leading and then the chest is moving. And again, right now I'm saying the head is leading because in this shot in particular, it is. In other shots, maybe the hips are leading. In other shots, maybe the chest is leading. You need to figure out depending on what your shot needs. Did that make sense?
Should realize sooner, or I couldn't. But honestly, I
And this is awesome. This is like an overall note. Bend bows. Shape the arms. And you can't put any excuses because now you're in polish. So this is the time to do the bend bows. Do your bend bows. Don't forget about them. We love them. Bend bows are your friend. Then if I look at...
I should have realized sooner, but I didn't. Or I guess maybe I couldn't. But honestly,
I'm looking now at the shoulders and the arms.
I should have realized sooner, but I didn't. Or I guess maybe I couldn't. But honestly,
I feel like
I should have realized sooner, but I didn't. Or I guess maybe I couldn't. But honestly,
I feel like first this movement feels a little bit too fast.
Or I guess maybe I couldn't. But honestly, maybe I couldn't. But honestly,
maybe what you could do is instead of bringing it up and back, because she's also doing it, but honestly it feels a little bit maybe disconnected from what she's saying and what she's feeling. So because here she says something.
I love you.
She says, I love you. So maybe she's preparing internally to say this very personal thing, and she's starting to feel a little bit insecure and a little bit awkward because it's a big thing to say and she doesn't know how the other person is going to react. In this case, it's not a person, but doesn't matter. So maybe I wouldn't bring the shoulders up here. I would keep them. I would actually start bringing them up in this frame, honestly, and keep them high all the way. Just keep them high. And remember to have the shoulders not be completely flat. One can be a little bit higher than the other. So in this, sometimes a nice thing to do is, if this is going to be your last pose, sometimes a nice thing to do is kind of like the same idea of contrapposto. So like you have it here, but these shoulders would be higher up. But be careful, like here, for example, it feels a little bit too, like there's an angle, but they feel very, very flat because they both go up the same amount. And when you move them up, the extremes can be the same, but you can offset how they get there. So one can get there faster than the other. That's something that you can do in polish. So instead of both of them moving at the same time, one leads and the other follows. And all of this is going to be recorded. So you can go back to this review and just double check everything and watch it again if there's something that you need to be reminded about. Yeah, subtle is usually very hard. That's why it's very, very important to not only go to the reference and check all the tiniest details that you can, but also just think about the animation concepts. A lot of what subtle shots need is thinking about animation concepts in like the highest way you can, which is not what one would expect because one thinks, oh, it's not moving that much. But because it's not moving that much, you need to embellish the shot with everything else. And for example, here, when this hand comes here, I'm not really understanding this gesture of what she's doing here because it feels like she's touching her ear. Like there's something that doesn't feel very connected to her emotions. I'm guessing that at some point maybe you wanted her to have long hair and then you opted for the short hair. Since you opted for the short hair, you're going to have to do something else with that hand or else it won't make sense. Is she going to have hair? Will you have time to do the hair? Because if you're not going to add long hair, you should change this gesture. Okay. But even if you do that, you need to make this a little bit, what's the word? Make this a little bit more interesting to watch. And I'm not saying that this is not interesting, but like if we look at the arcs, for example, it feels a little bit weird that suddenly she comes in and then comes out with the wrist and then comes in again. That's what I mean by not interesting in the sense of make it flow a little bit nicer. So if she's going to do this with her hair, like if I do this, my hand is not going to do this. It's not going to do this because right now that's what's happening. It's coming in and out and in. It will just come in and stay in. So just change that so that this is a little bit closer. And you need to change possibly this pose so that it doesn't feel like the whole hand is shifting the hair. It could be just this type of hand pose. I'm not going to draw it because I can't draw hands, but like something more delicate, where the hand is not everything. Because like when I do this, I don't do this and my hand stays like that. There's a change. I grab my hair, I do this, and then I bring it in like that, and my hand changes the pose. It's not always in that same pose. So again, add all the nuances to the movement and add all the details, especially with the hand poses. And when she releases, I would, two things. I would avoid any frame where this is happening, where the upper arm is covered fully by the lower arm. You need to fix this. Every time that it happens, you need to figure out, okay, how can I fix it? Maybe the hand can come up can come down a little bit faster. And so this is a good frame. This frame, it's already a little bit more down. And that's also going to help you so that the hand doesn't cover the head, the face. And then you need to basically fix the rest of the spacing until she gets to the table. Because also right now this hand feels very, very floaty because there's too many frames for this movement. If you already changed this, you can probably get this hand maybe by this, or maybe by this frame she already has her hand on the table. So you do that a little bit faster. Because right now also what's happening is that if we look at frames 44 to 51, the hands move exactly the same amount at the same rate at the same time. Everything is the same. So if that hand already got there faster, you don't have that problem.
I should have realized sooner, but I didn't.
And in terms of the shoulders, I would also... Let me see.
I should have realized sooner, but I didn't.
When she says, but I didn't, maybe she can do a gesture with her shoulders, just so that they are not completely static. Because when we talk, we tend to gesture with our shoulders. We tend to move around. We tend to do things. Right now, she feels very, very static. And that's why if you don't do this movement and you leave it for the end, it's going to give you enough space to add that shoulder movement when she says, but I didn't.
I should have realized sooner, but I didn't. Or I guess maybe I couldn't, but honestly... I should have realized sooner, but I didn't. Or I guess maybe I couldn't, but honestly...
Okay, and for the head, I think that the main thing that I want you to focus on are arcs. Right now, I feel like you can push your arcs a little bit more. Like, for example, and this is something that what I would do is I would put a motion trail on the nose and just go crazy with the arcs. Like, push them as much as you can and then look back and see, does this work? So, for example, if we track this, hang on, because this is going to take a while. And this is not even the arc that I wanted to track. But it helps to show you what I mean. So I'm going to only track this arc. And everything that I say goes for the whole shot, because what's happening here is happening in the whole shot. And I want to see you take this feedback and apply it to the rest of the shot. So if we look at this, is this? Yeah. I think maybe I should have done it another color. See how here, for example, she comes diagonally down. Should use another color. And then here, she again moves kind of diagonally. Not this is not the exact angle. There we go. Hey Danish. Where did I draw the oh. Yeah, I drew it here. Here she comes kind of down like this. And then here, again, she moves very, very diagonally. So what I would do is put a motion trail there, and every time it's not moving in an arc, think, okay, how can I make this move in in arcs? It's not that every single time. It's not that every single time everything is going to move in an arc, but most times it will. Sometimes there's moments where we purposefully don't use arcs, but there has to be a reason why we don't use an arc. So already you notice that the arc is not an arc. So that's good. You see it. Seeing it is the first step. Admitting there's no arc is the first step. So for example, here, maybe she arcs down because then she comes a little bit higher there. Maybe here, the head rotates sideways so that you arc a little bit like that. And then here, she would arc down, things like this. So already you're noticing that you need to improve your arcs. I'm not going to go over the whole shot because you need to go through all the shot because this is happening all throughout. So put a motion trail, trust me, is the easiest way to deal with your arcs. If you have Animbot, the motion trails in Animbot are super, super fast. If not, you can use the Maya motion trails. It's good to know how to use them. But go through the whole shot and check your arcs. And that's going to help you a lot because there's a lot of areas in terms of the acting that can be improved. But honestly, it's arcs and it's honestly arcs and spacing in the nose. First, of course, first fix the hips, then fix the chest. For the rotation in Y, you can do first the head and then the chest, but try to see what's going to affect what body part. But definitely track everything because, for example, here, if we look at this movement, where is it? Is it this one? This one, she kind of hits a wall and then moves with the nose. All of this, you can just check it with your motion trails. Just make sure that it doesn't, like the spacing doesn't go really fast and then it stops. Something like that. And then other things that I forgot to say here on the hands. And I'm not going to comment on anything on the eyes. This is for anyone that might put some notice here. She didn't spline the eyes. She didn't work on the eyes. So I'm not going to comment on the eyes. That's going to be for whenever she comes back for feedback.
Sooner, but I didn't. Or I guess
here, again, the hands from 143 all the way to 180, they move exactly at the same time, exactly at the same rate, exactly doing the same thing. Push how asymmetrical the movement can be. So maybe one hand starts moving before the other. Maybe the other hand starts lifting before the other. They don't move exactly at the same rate. Maybe they hit the same apex, but one gets there before the other. Stuff like that. And the same here. Just offset things so that it doesn't feel like everything moves at the same time. And then with this, you can have a lot of fun. And this is super, super polishy, but basically, can I put like this? So right now you have the fingers do this. They are sliding like this. When you are, you're not, when you are moving the hand, there's going to be, the fingers are going to drag a little bit. So they are not going to move all at once. There's going to be friction with the table. So the hands, if I'm moving them this way, see how my fingers drag a little bit. So you can start adding all of those fun little things with the fingers dragging a little bit. And then when the hand lifts up, for example, here, Right now, all of the fingers are moving together. It's moving like this. What if it starts moving and maybe this finger starts curling up because it already is not touching the table and it starts curling up, and then just add a little bit more nuance to the movement. And it's not that you take one break and you're a dummy. It's more of you just need to go in and polish. It's as easy as that. You're in polishing. This is all things that you can do in polish. It's as easy as that. And sometimes it takes a while to get back in the rhythm when you take a break. You take a break, and sometimes getting back to animation is like, oh, I need to get back into this. I would say personally, if you're okay with it, I don't want to give you feedback on the lip sync yet, because I want you to fix all of these other things first. I want you to work on the head. I want you to work on those arcs, because those arcs, you maybe at some point are going to change something and it's going to affect ever so slightly the mouth shape, and you're going to have to change it. Focus on this first. Whoa. I need to mute this. Focus on that first, and then you can work on the rest. And let me look at this. Did someone post something? No. Okay, cool. Oh, let me look at the transition from one shot to the other. Yeah, that's okay. Okay. Where is the next shot? Here, it feels... Oops. It kind of feels like the neck, it's too rotated in C, too much. So I would bring it in a little bit. So that will bring the face a little bit more here. Because it just feels, even if sometimes it's how to think about the cut from one shot to the other is not using necessarily the exact same pose, but tweaking it a little bit so that the feel of it is the same. Because sometimes you use the exact same pose, but something doesn't feel right. So I would just shift that neck a little bit. Let me, actually, I need to unmute this. If anyone was listening to that, I'm sorry. Did I unmute this? Why can't I hear the sound? Oh, because it's only there.
I love you. I love you.
Here, personally, for me, the way she turns feels a little bit odd, but I think that the reason why it feels odd, because I don't think it's a bad thing that you're leading with the hips for the rotation, because it's more like the last thing she wants to do is this. So instead of leading with the head, she's leading with her body, and the head is the last. So it's like the last thing I'm going to do is actually go through this. So I feel like that works. But I think what feels a little bit odd for me is how the head moves up here, and then the rest of the body rotates. So it feels a little bit too much like a 1-2, one movement and then the other. So maybe what I would try, also be careful with the spacing here on this leg. Like suddenly it moves and it stops, and then it moves a lot, and then it hits a wall, and then it starts moving again. Just go in and fine tune that spacing. And because we don't see the the feet, you can just lower that foot, and that's probably going to fix that. You don't need to bring that leg so high up. So what I would try maybe is I wouldn't lift the head up here. I just wouldn't. I would lift the head up as she's turning, so that she is doing this and she's like this. So she drags it down and then up. I think that might feel a little bit more natural. If you still want to have the head up, let's say because she made a resolution in her head and she's like, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to tell him, because that could be where you're trying to go for. Again, I haven't seen this shot in so long that I can't remember exactly what it was about. The reason why I'm not feeling that it's like a more of a, okay, I made up my mind, if that's what you're going for, if you want to keep that head up, you need to make that faster. Because right now what's happening is she's lifting it up and she doesn't have time to finish that movement that she's already doing the other. So if you want her to be like, okay, I made up my mind, I'm going to do it, this needs to be super quick. So maybe on 207, she starts moving the head up. By, I don't know, 214, maybe 215, the head is up. And you can even have a little bit of an overshoot, slight overshoot with the head, so because the movement is fast. And then she stares at that wall in that position. She holds that up from 215 all the way to 224. She would be still in the same head angle. You wouldn't keep moving it past. Again, whichever mood you're going for, if it's a I made up my mind, I'm doing it, or if it's more of a okay, fine. If it's an okay, fine, then don't bring the head up. And again, for all of this, I would say, because all of this, I think, in terms of the shot,
I love you.
pretty much everything is there. But I think you need to basically work on all your arcs and find ways to make it better. Like I mentioned before, you already saw it. When I tracked it on the head, you could see that the arc could be better. So I know that you can see it. You can understand where an arc is not an arc. So I would say go through this whole shot and just double check your arcs. Because honestly, this shot is working pretty well. I think maybe the only thing in terms of body mechanics is that right now her hips feel a little bit like they are working on their own. So for example, here,
I love you.
in this part, it almost feels like the hips are kind of IK hips because they are rotating and translating, but her chest stays in place. So what you can do is just add a little bit more, like here, for example, her chest is rotating, but her hips almost kind of stopped rotating here. Like their hips stopped rotating here. Sorry, not there. There. And the chest kept going. And also the chest, the RC, suddenly stopped. Like if we look at this side, boom, it hit a wall. And then it keeps moving. So just make sure you go through that and it doesn't hit a wall. You need to track everything. Like the way that I would track this is I would track the base of the neck. I would put a control here, and if you have Animbot, you can move it to this point or just add a locator here, constrain it to the geo, and track that locator. Don't do a motion trail on the geo with Maya's motion trails, because that will really ruin your performance. But basically what I would do is maybe here, I would move the body, I would keep it moving a little bit more sideways. And then when she moves this way, you can maybe just rotate this a little bit less so that the chest follows that rotation a little bit more, so that it doesn't feel like the chest is staying in place and the hips are rotating a lot. Because I think that you have enough translations and rotations on the hips, but it just feels like maybe you counter animated the chest and it's staying in place. And when she says I love you, again, she brings it up. When she brings everything up, you can push the arc on the hips a little bit higher. So imagine if she were a full body shot, it would be like you're adding foot roll and pushing the hips up. You counter animated? That's what you did?
I love you. I love you.
Yeah. It like sometimes we go like we are focused so much on a thing and we don't notice that it starts to feel a little bit odd because we're like, no, it needs to move like this. It happened to me a million times. It's okay. It's just that now that you see it a little bit from afar, you can see it. And sometimes if you don't notice things, what you can do is you can flip your shot and watch your whole shot flipped. And then you're going to start seeing things that you never used to see before. You can flip it vertical, horizontal, any way, and it's going to refresh your eyes and you're not going to be stuck on whatever you're seeing.
I love you.
So yeah, that's pretty much all I have for you today. Do you have any questions on what I went through? Cool. Awesome. Good luck. You can do this. No problem. Before I go into this, I had a question. You got this. You can do this. I had a question here. Let me just here. So the question was, I got a note on hand gesture and I have to redo that whole hand part, but my body and all is working well and I have crazy constraints set up on the hand. How do I approach that note? Can you tell me a little bit more about this, because I'm not sure if I understand. So the hand is constrained to something, or there's something constrained to the hand? If there is, like, is the hand grabbing something, and is the hand gesture a change in terms of you're changing how the hand moves and rotates, or is it like the pose of the hand that's changing? Because all of this is going to change my answer. And if you want to send me a link to the shot to understand what's the thing, feel free to post a link. Constraints are really fun. I think people are very scared of them because they haven't used them enough, but constraints can be your best friends. And the more you do them, the better you're going to be an animator, because a lot of your problems usually can be solved with constraints. So for anyone here who is either new at animation or like going through any school program and you're like, I'm not going to do this shot because the character will have to use 2 types of constraints, actually try to add 3 types of constraints. I don't know, push yourself to really understand how they work, how it works to constrain an object like to a character, how to transfer that object from one hand to the other, or to pass it to some other character. All of that is going to super help you. I like constraints, but there's people who are like the gods of constraints, and they can do a lot of animation for free just by constraining things. So I don't know if you're writing an answer to what I said, but while you reply, let me just check if anyone posted any other links. I don't think so. If anyone has any links that they want me to look at, feel free to post them here in the chat or potentially in Discord. And let me send you all the Discord links and all our links in case you want to follow us. Here are all of our links. There you go. If you want to join us on Discord, you can post your links there as well. So in the meantime, if you're still writing your answer, I'm going to talk quickly about this Saturday stream. So this Saturday at 1 p.m. PST, we have Taylor Gessler, I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, and Robert Lanning. They are an animation power couple. They've been together since they went to AM. Now they are in LA. Taylor works in Disney. Robert works in, I think, Luma Pictures. And they're going to join us on Saturday to tell us their story, to answer any questions that you guys may have. So feel free to send us your questions on Discord or on Instagram. You can do it in, like, send me a message or put it in the comment box in their post. They are super, super amazing. Taylor is also an incredible artist. She not only is great at animation, I mean, she got into Disney, of course, but she draws incredibly well. So I'm not seeing your answer in terms of the question. So in the meantime, I will go and check this shot. When you can, reply. Okay, there you go. Yes, constraints are fun. Let's say I have a hand gesture or a specific acting note for a certain part of the body, but the rest of the body is going. Depends on what the gesture change is. So for example, if it's a very big thing, let's say you were, I don't know, your character was waving to someone and now your director is like, actually, I don't want them to wave. I want them to bring their hand here and scratch their, like this. If it's a big gesture change like that, where your whole arm is involved, then your body is going to change. So you're going to have to change what your whole body is doing, because this moves my body offset to what my hand is doing, but this doesn't move my body in any way. What I like to do when I have a change like that, I basically grab all of my controls in the body. I key everything before the note change, and I key everything before the end of that. So I can make sure that everything is keyed out and I don't touch everything that comes before that hand gesture change. And I key everything so that everything after that hand gesture is safe, and I'm not really editing anything. And in the middle, again, it depends on how big the change is. If it's just a change that affects the arm, I will just delete the arm. Yes, I will delete everything. And I personally like to, let's say I was in polishing and they asked me to change something, I go back to blocking and yeah, of course, you need to save a previous version of your shot. I go back to blocking just because I feel more comfortable blocking in stepped. And I go back to stepped and I reblock that part. And once I'm happy with it, then I can go into spline and then I can go into polish. And sometimes you can even show that little part in blocking. If it's something that changes the whole body, I basically just reblock the things that are affected by that change. If it's, let's say, the character was doing this like no gesture, and now they want you to do this gesture, that's not going to really affect the body. So I can even just do the arm and that would be enough, and I would delete all of those frames and do it again. If it's something, again, like going from this to, I don't know, this is going to affect the whole body, I would basically go back to stepped in that part and reblock that. It's sometimes really hard to delete our own animation, but you need to be really comfortable with doing it, because sometimes you animate things and the director wants you to change it and you can't say, oh no, because I'm so attached to my animation. You need to forget about it and just make it better, because the goal is to make your shot better. So yes, I would delete the frame range and block it again, and then spline it again, and then polish again. But just make sure you key before and you key after, so that nothing in between is affected. And like Danish is saying, save a previous version. Oh yeah, my brain doesn't work in layered as well. If I have to work in layered, I cry. So a lot of people do that. Sometimes, I mean, if it's a very small change, let's say again, the character was doing this and now they're doing this, I might do it in splines because it's a very quick change that is not a big thing. It's not going to affect everything in my shot. And so if it's a very quick thing, I might do it in splines. But if not, I just do it in stepped. As long as it works, nobody cares how you did it. So, yeah. So, if anyone has any other questions or links they want me to look at, feel free to post them here in the chat, because after this, I don't really have anything else aside from the analyzing reference demo that I will do. And I will also start opening Maya, because that might take a while. Yeah, no problem. I know that suddenly Maya is going to pop up in the screen. Okay, so cool. I know there's music. I'm gonna play it once with music, but then I'm gonna not play it with music. Cool. So I'm not sure if you have a camera movement in this shot. I mean, you might, because I know in some parts it feels like the camera is moving. Like here, for example, it feels like, but yeah, here. Oh, no camera movement? The camera is not moving here? Are you sure? Okay. Okay. That was very confusing then. The reason why I'm saying it's confusing. Yeah, okay. No, don't. don't make the character slide. The reason why I'm saying this is because right now, let's say for example here, your character stepped here, and this is going to affect a lot of your shot. So do this. I think I would rather you do this and then come back than give you like a million feedbacks. Yeah, it's good to have. Yeah, it's good to have something in the shot that you can see in terms of I don't know, something in the background, so that we can tell if it's lighting or not. But for example, here I'm gonna call her a she because I think this is a female rig. She is stepping here. For her to be able to bring the weight backwards, that foot needs to be completely planted, because if that's the only thing that is keeping her in the ground. So all of her weight is going to push down on that foot. And so the only way that she could slide this foot is if her weight is not on that foot. So if, let's say, her weight is all the way here in this foot, then yes, she can actually slide, because there's nothing pushing that leg down. So here, if this is where I see her foot, the next time that I see it, it has to be here. And it's going to bring her further this way. And this is why it felt like the camera was moving, because that foot needs to actually stay in place. If you were following reference, it could be that the reference you had, the camera was moving. And so That's why it felt like the feet were sliding. But you need to either choose to use a camera movement that I would recommend against. I would focus on just working with this as is without any camera movement like you're doing. But just make sure that the feet don't slide. The same here, for example. If the foot is here, it shouldn't move back like it's doing here. It should stay in the same position. So this should be a little bit more to screen left. Here, be careful also because your foot is coming up before this foot actually plants, so this needs to still be touching the ground. And I like to usually focus first on the hips for feedback, but this whole thing of the foot sliding is very, very important. So here, this is where your foot is. This is where it has to end. It can't slide because all of her weight is on that foot, so that foot can't move. Unless she's on roller skates or ice skates, she can't slide that foot because also there's friction with the ground. So basically, all throughout, go through every single moment where the foot is on the ground. It has to stay exactly in the same place. Like once the foot is on the ground, unless the foot is rotating in some special, like pivoting in some special way, all of the translations need to be constant. So you go into the graph editor, you go to the first frame where the foot touches, and then you go to the last frame where the foot is going to lift. There should be no translations. Cool. Yeah, for sure. I mean, my method of analyzing reference is, I don't know if it works for everyone. It works for me, but yeah, for sure. So yeah, basically go throughout all of your shot and fix the feet. And by fixing the feet, you're gonna have to also fix the hips because everything is going to be connected to where the feet land. And the reason also why I felt like the camera was moving is because in some areas it feels like the jumps are very, what's the word? Kind of like they are a little bit stuck in place. It's not that they are stuck in place, but for example, here, if we actually have her, she would be, let's say, where is this would be kind of, she's actually going to be around here, right? Because that foot cannot slide. So if she's actually here, what's going to happen is that if she lands here, and let me do this. I can't see it. There's too many frames. But basically, there's more translation sideways than what you actually have right now. Yes, I am taking feedback. So if you want to post your Sync Sketch link here, I can look at your Sync Sketch link after this. And also what's happening is that if we look at, let's say, this line, let me track it with something else, another color. This is like the good old days when I used to give you feedback on Facebook. Now I do it live. No tint, that's why I was not checking it. Red. Okay. If we look at the spacing, see how it's kind of smaller here and then it speeds up, like the spacing gets bigger and then it gets smaller again. Once something is flying in the air, unless there is a very strong force that crashes against it, the spacing moving forward or sideways will be constant. So here, this spacing, I'm talking only the sideways translation, not the up and down, just sideways. Once it's in the air, it's going to be constant. Why? Because physics. That's like the easiest way that I can say it. It's how physics works. Once an object is in the air, the only thing that's going to affect it is gravity, and gravity only affects up and down movement. If, let's say, I don't know, I throw a ball and there's a tornado or there's a tsunami or I don't know, a very strong force that pushes the other way, that there's like a big storm, that's the only way in which my sideways translation is going to change speed. If not, once it's in the air, it should be constant. And that's why I thought that you were moving the camera, because usually when we have camera movements, that sideways translation is not necessarily constant, because if our character is constant but the camera moves at a different speed, the spacing will look different. So, since your camera is not moving, every time that she jumps needs to be constant. Did that make sense? Cool. Let me turn this off. Here, I feel like this is a very mid-movement pose to begin your shot. I feel like basically when we start a shot, especially if it's going to be in our demo reels, we want that first frame to be the best frame we've ever done in our lives, because that's what's going to catch our attention. It's also what people might see for the longest time, because if I have this shot open and I'm not playing it, I'm going to be seeing this frame for a very, very long time. And right now, she feels a little bit unbalanced because this is her balance point. Well, I'm drawing it. She feels very unbalanced because she basically kind of feels like she's about to fall backwards, but then does this. So the way that you can fix it is actually whatever reference you used. If you have more of that reference of what came before, I would add whatever pose came before this, so that you choose something that is super appealing. Yeah, exactly. So that you choose something that is super appealing, something that's like more of a, like, again, a stable pose, like you're saying, and something that says, okay, what is this shot about? Because if I see this, I don't see it from the first frame that she's a dancer. You need to find a pose that tells the story before we even start the shot, so that it reads very, very quickly. Because I know once you start playing it, I understand she's a dancer, blah, blah, blah. But if you can already have that from that first pose, you're setting yourself up for success. So if you have more of that reference, add a little bit more of animation. Doesn't have to be a lot, just enough. And if you don't, what you can do is shoot some reference yourself from basically the beginning up till here. You don't need to be the best dancer to do this reference. You can, like, I don't know, you put yourself in, I don't know, a pose that is very dancey, and then you try to do this jump. So, because you don't really need the whole jump, you need just this frame. So, as long as you have the first thing, it works. You can shoot your own reference for that. I feel like here also she's also very unbalanced and doesn't get to push herself forward that much, but it could be just the trick of the foot that is moving. What I would try though is to have this pose be a little bit more here. For next time, also try to have your reference in an image plane so that we can see, because for example, I'm not a dancer, so I can give you feedback on this, but it might be super off because dancing usually has movements that are not the usual movements. You can kind of not fake, but yeah, like you can fake weight transfers in dance without knowing, without seeing it. So that's okay, don't worry. For next time, you can just put it there. You don't have it here, right? Oh, it's here. Cool. I can see it from there. So see, for example, here she has that. I was telling you feedback that wasn't helping, but why does it work in her reference and it not in yours? Because in this one, she was running into the shot. She was running, and because she was running, she has the momentum to have this angle. She has the momentum because she's going to push through it and go really, really quickly into that. So for you to get into this really this angle, she needs to come running so that we see that momentum push through. If she's going to start from a static pose, this is very, very unbalanced, and she doesn't have the energy enough to push that way. And see, the reason why here it feels like she's not moving that much is because the camera is moving with her. And you can see it by just looking at this. It starts here and it moves all the way there. So the camera is compensating for that spacing. Sure, let me open this here. Okay. Let me see something. Okay. So another thing that I would like you to focus on are the lines, especially the lines of the arms and the legs. So for example, if we see this pose and we see what she does here, look at how straight those arms are and how the hands kind of break that line and how much she goes up here. If we look at this here you're already getting into the bend too quickly. We're not appreciating this pose for too long. You need to hold the legs open for a little bit longer so that we can appreciate that pose and really enjoy that really, really nice stretch. And potentially you can also bring her higher overall so that, again, you push that a little bit more. Let me see something in terms of the angle. Yeah, exactly. And also, if you look at it, you can even push the whole angle of the body a little bit more. And the hands, again, break them as straight as you can without any bend. And then you can do this. You can even, again, this is me just seeing from the reference, but if you wanted, you could even push this more. You can do something like this. Again, I'm not a dancer, so I don't know if this would even work. I would recommend coming in tomorrow or any Friday with Madison, because Madison is an actual dancer. She knows how to dance, so she understands the mechanics really, really well. because she's amazing. And then in terms of the lines, see how here, when she's coming out of that, see how it's kind of like the tail assignment. The fingers are pointing at where they were coming from. So she does this type of motion. Same with this. She goes through the exact same path that the arms were having. So here, she is actually going to point still at where she was coming from. And the same kind of here. Yeah, exactly. Apply these notes, and then like if you apply them for tomorrow, feel free to come tomorrow. If not, feel free to come any Friday. I mean, I don't mind giving you notes, but I know that she knows this. So she will be way better at telling you how to push this even more. Then here, something that you can push is when she lands. Right now, she kind of lands and her hips stay here and then they come down. I would push that so that they come down a little bit quicker and then they come up later. Just because it would be nice to see the arc of the hips follow that landing. And again, here, lines. So for example, this dance has very straight arms and they flow from one arm to the other. So you need to push that a little bit more. And when she comes here, if you see your reference, she actually leads with the elbow and drags this behind. So here she actually would have this type of shape where the hand drags and the elbow leads the motion. Okay. Here, when she goes into this, it feels like she's not really anticipating that much. And if you see the hips, look at how much her hips were here and they come down quite a bit and then they come up. So I'm missing the hips going down that much. So here, first, again, you need to think about how much the hips move in camera space. So for example, if the hips are here in this position, she's going to plant that foot. Again, if this is where that foot was, she might plant it a little bit more there. So the hips actually travel a little bit more. And it will bring she will also bring those hips down. I'm exaggerating here, but this is just so that you get an idea. She will bring this down so that she can push herself up in this. Because right now, she doesn't have enough energy to jump this much. And the same here. When she lands, once she lands, she needs to keep coming down because she was coming down with a lot of force down. And so she's going to have to catch her weight for a little bit and cushion into that down and then push up. What do you mean keep it in that pose longer? Here in this one? In this frame here? It's not that you need to keep it in the pose down longer, it's that you need to the antique pose. It's not that she needs to keep it down, it's that you need to arc the hips down. It's not that necessarily you need to hold that pose, because if we look at what she's doing, it's not that she is holding the down, she's just coming down and up. Like, what you can use as reference is this. Look at how much the difference is between this and this. There's no difference in her hips. So she just needs to come down and then up. And that down, yes, it will have to be down for longer, but it's not that you're holding the pose because she's still moving sideways. She's still translating sideways as she is coming down. Like all of this, I think also, let me just double check something. Yeah, I think it's mostly you need to keep her down and also have her translate sideways way more so that she has enough momentum to move forward or sideways. And I don't know much about downs, but I'm pretty sure I would avoid the foot doing this and I would keep it all the way like this, because that way it pushes the line of the arm and it elongates. And again, here she feels like she's going to fall in this pose. And look at how straight she actually is. Look at that very, very straight line. In this pose, she needs to be super, super straight because all of her weight is just on this leg. Okay, I don't want to give you any more feedback because I think that what you have already are very big changes in terms of especially how much her hips are moving in space. Did everything make sense in terms of how the hips need to move? Cool, awesome. Do you have any other questions or anything? Yeah, no problem. Again, if you want to come by either tomorrow or next week, I mean, you can come by next Thursday if you want. I can keep giving you feedback on this. Or if you want to come to Madison's, feel free to come as well. So, cool. If you don't have any questions, let me go to the next one. No problem. So, someone is already giving feedback, it seems. So, I don't want to disrupt whoever is giving you feedback. So, if it's okay, or is it? Is there someone giving you feedback? Or I've just seen drovers. Let me just refresh. Okay, then I'll let your peer buddy. Uh, No problem. I'll let your peer buddy give you feedback, and then I'll go into this shot, and then if when I come back he's or she is done, I will go into your shot. Just because if they're also your peer buddy, it's nice to give them the chance to give you feedback. Because I remember being a peer buddy and not having anyone show me their shot, and it was like, why did I sign up to be a peer buddy? So I'm gonna let them give you feedback, and then I'll come back to your shot. So let me just double check your comment here, Danish. It's you're working on lip sync and any ideas for what the body animation could be. Cool. Yeah, no problem. Okay, cool. Kenny, you need to give me feedback on your live. Can I tell everyone here why you need to give me feedback on live? You need to teach me how to become like you. Can I tell the world? Can I tell everyone? Please. Please. Please let me tell everyone.
They lie in boot hills all through the West. The outlaws, the gunslingers, the Billy the Kids, and worse.
Hang on, I need to have this louder because I'm not hearing anything.
They lie in boot hills all through the West. The outlaws, the gunslingers, the Billy the Kids, and worse. Say a fellow like the coward that shot Bill Hickok in the back. There's always one like that in every time of history.
Okay. I'm gonna go over it. It's a long one, so I'm gonna go over by parts. But before I say anything else, just because I'm super happy and I'm super proud, the reason why Kenny here needs to give me feedback on my life is because someone got accepted into the Disney Talent Development Program. And it's not me. It's Kenny, who's amazing. And we love him, and we love his work and everything, because he is the best human who deserves everything that's good everywhere. So if you don't know him, ask him for his demo reel so that he shares it, and then you can see the awesomeness. And he is proof that if you work hard, you'll get anywhere. Because his work when he finished the AM was pretty good. But then he kept on going, and now every time I see his reel, a part of me cries internally because I'm like, I'll never be as good as Kenny. I'll never be as good. No, he can't be anonymous anymore. I told him he can't be anonymous because I want to be like the proud mama who shares everything that their kids do, because I'm never gonna have kids, so you guys are my kids, and I want to share it and be like, look at what my kid did. Because I'm so happy. Like, it's so great to see your friends achieve their goals and get to awesome places that they deserve because they worked their butts off. Cool. Yes, sounds good. I think I find it a little bit odd sometimes when I see lip sync like this. Just again, this is not because what you're doing is odd, just because I feel like sometimes if this is going to be part of a shot where the character is moving, I tend to, at least again, me personally, I tend to shape my lip sync a lot towards the angle that the character is facing in terms of the camera. So sometimes doing it like this could change your lip sync depending on if the character suddenly looks this way or that way or forward or down or up, the lip sync shape will change. But we still can check this out, give you feedback. Yeah, for sure. Let me just hear the audio.
They lie in boot hills all through.
What is he saying?
They lie in boot hills all through the West. They lie in boot hills all through the West. The outlaws, the gunslingers, the Billy.
Okay, so let me zoom this in. So usually when, yeah, cool. That's what I thought he was saying. Thank you. It's good to have like double check, because sometimes I remember giving feedback on shots and being like, oh, he's saying this, and they're like, no. It's like, oh, wow. I heard something completely different. Before a character starts talking, it's a nice thing to open their mouths because it's them taking a breath. So instead of going from they, you can go to from they. So they. And so that's going to show the audience that the character is inhaling. And then this is where I hear the TH. So for the TH, I would have the tongue kind of like the teeth are biting on the tongue. It can be just showing the upper teeth. You don't necessarily need to show the lower teeth. When I think that you're overly complicating a few things. Yeah, but if you do something in the nose, you would need to be like they. So you would need to also see a scrunch in the mouth a little bit so that we see it. Basically, is to have an anticipation to the lip sync. That's what you're missing, the anticipation. It can be they or they, whichever you prefer.
They lie in boot hills all through the West. They lie in. They lie. They lie in.
I think that you're overly complicating a few shapes and things because I feel like, for example, this corner is suddenly moving too much on its own without a reason for it. So if you're gonna wanting to go into this kind of sneer type of shape, what I would do is have it already in this one so that when he opens, it's there. Because right now what's happening is that, hey, Brandon, you are shifting too much between shapes, and usually lip sync, the simpler it is, the better. The less you shift between shapes, the cleaner is going to read. Let me hear how he says they.
They lie in. They lie. They lie in.
So here he goes from the and when he goes into lie on the L, on the L, I would basically push the spacing as the jaw opens so that it's more snappy. Because right now it feels like if I look at the lip and the jaw, should have. It feels a little bit even, especially the lip. It feels like it's just an ease moving down. So you can push, like the mouth can actually be very, very snappy. Doesn't mean that you can shift things in one frame so quickly, but you can. And then also something that you need to be mindful of is where the lips are in relationship to the teeth. So what I'm going to do is basically mark things like this down. Instead of going through all of the lip sync, like you said, or even a part of it, I'm going to mark the areas that I think you can check in all of the shots. So for example, here, if I look at the relationship between the teeth and the upper lips, it's always the same up until here when it opens a little bit and then it's the same again. And it stays kind of in the same place. How can we avoid that? There's different ways. One is expression and the other one is face mechanics. Face mechanics is the easiest one in terms of if I open my mouth, my upper lips are going to follow and are going to drag because I'm basically dragging everything down. So for example, if I open, they go down. If I close, they go up. Basic mechanics. The lips and the teeth should be should never feel like they are glued together for too many frames. Like even for one frame, as long as there's like a pixel movement, unless there's like, I don't know, the character does a smile and they stay in that smile, that's different. If they are talking and they're like you're doing lip sync, I would try to avoid parts where the teeth and the lips are always in the same relationship. The other way is expression. So for example, it's not the same for me to say ah where my lips are dragging down than me saying ah where I'm purposefully pushing my lips up. That's another way where I can avoid that feeling. So if you're going to go into this shape, I would go into that shape as soon as you go into they, that's when I would push those lips up instead of pushing them afterwards. And then once I'm in that shape, like that they shape that you have, that this type of shape, that's when the mechanics of the mouth would kick in. So you would stay in that shape, but he would say lie, and that shape will push down. So that's how you can avoid it and have everything be a little bit more connected. And then another thing that I would try to avoid is this thing where you have two very complex shapes. You have this complex shape and then this complex shape. I would try to simplify one of them. In this case, I would probably simplify the bottom lip just because it's the one that doesn't really have the expression the upper lip does. This one works better, for example, already. But this one, starting to get too complex. Here, perfect. Here, too complex. So just choose whichever you prefer for this breakdown, whether it's like this or like this, and simplify it. And also something that, let me see if you're doing it. You're kind of all the time showing the bottom teeth. All the time. You don't need to. Usually you can show bottom teeth for S shapes, shs, E's, S, but for A's, O's, Oo's, all of those, you don't need to show the bottom teeth. Like you can, but you like it would be more appealing in my opinion. Whoops. I can choose actually the color. If this wasn't showing the bottom teeth and you pose the tongue a little bit nicer. Also, other things that you can do to kind of push this. If they go from la, you can change maybe the angle here so that this is more like this. And again, if this were sideways, I would tell you to do this with the mouth so that it works sideways. But again, if the character is looking the other way, it would work differently. But for now, you could just do this so that there's a little bit more asymmetry and you're avoiding this completely vertical line. So here, for example, another place where it feels a little bit overly complicated, you're going from this shape and suddenly the teeth move that way. But then that's where you're going with the mouth. If your teeth are, if your mouth shape is moving that way, I would expect the B to actually be here. Because when we speak, we are kind of doing our anticipations for the next shape as we speak. So all of our shapes are connected depending on what comes later, because it's not the same for me saying, I don't know, let me think of a word. I forgot how, any word, I forgot words. It's not the same for me to say boo Like you're scaring someone, you're going boo, and my B is already changing its shape, anticipating what's going to come. So I say boo. Like my B is already going to be shaped like an oo. But if I say banana, like you're a minion, my B is going to be more open because my A is going to be more open. So I'm not going to be here like a B for a boo and then go to an A. So the same is here. You're moving the lips to one side, but then the lips go to the other side. It's not helping the mouth flow from one shape to the other. So I would try to either remove this movement or shift it to the other side or change the B. Keep all your M, B, and P's need to be close for at least 2 frames. The main reason for this is motion blur. Because if you do motion blur, your B's might not look closed, but also because it reads better overall. Even if you don't have motion blur, usually MBPs go close for 2 frames. Same with like blinks, you blink for 2 frames minimum. Oo shapes, you don't show the teeth. If you can avoid it, you never show the teeth on oo and o's. And there's an actual reason for this. It's not just me being annoying. It's when you say ooh, like look at me right now. It doesn't matter what angle I make. It doesn't matter, you're not going to see my teeth. And the reason for this is if I do my oohs from the side, my lips come forward. I say ooh. Like look how much it pushes. I don't know if it can be seen. That much like how much the lips are pushing forward, and again, I can't see if the lips are pushing forward here. My guess is they aren't. You can probably push them forward a lot more. That's what hides the lips because you can't see them anymore. So hide them for any oo and o. Sometimes it sucks because depending on the shape that you're doing before, let's say you're going from an S to an oo, or you're going like you're saying, I don't know, shoes. It's really annoying because you have to show the teeth clenched for the sh, but then you have to go to an oo, but the sh is already going to be shaped kind of like an oo because it's going to anticipate that shape. And you can't move the teeth in between those poses because it will look weird. And that's when you start playing with where in the face that shape is. Maybe your sh is up and the oo is low. So in that movement, you hide the teeth. So that's how you can play with it. Sorry, I get really passionate about lip sync. I really enjoy lip sync, and there's so much to it that it's super fun.
They lie in boot hills all through the West. They lie in boot hills all through. Lie in boot hills.
And it's like, even here, you can already hear that you can have the B here. And I still hear the ooh here, so this shape still needs to be like an ooh shape. Much more closed. And be careful because I can see the teeth moving. The lower teeth, I don't mind it, but the upper teeth cannot move in terms of visibly. You can move the teeth if you hide the movement. So let's say you go from an A to an M to an O. That's not to an O, to an E. You can change where the teeth are in the face in the A and the E just because you can hide that movement in the M. Here, I can see that the teeth are going from here all the way up to here. that can't happen because those teeth are glued to the skull. So if you do that, you're basically changing the bone structure of the whole face. Yeah, the way that you can do this, I'm guessing, I mean, one of the reasons why sometimes this happens is that people use the lower squash and stretch and it moves the teeth. If it does, yeah, you either need to counter animate it or just tone it down. And instead of using so much of that squash, maybe using the jaw. So instead of pushing this down so much with the squash, you can push it just with the jaw, and that won't move your upper teeth. And so, like, aside from this looking weird, like at work we have like our director, even if he sees the teeth moving a pixel, he will comment on it and be like, the teeth are moving. So be mindful, don't move the teeth. And speaking of teeth, since we're here, you can also shape the teeth a little bit more. Like, I see now that they are shaped here a little bit, but you can shape them even a little bit more. Like, potentially like this, for example. Give them a nice graphical shape. But also, for example, this, I would like, aside from, I don't like to show bottom teeth all the time. I'm personally someone who likes hiding the teeth as much as possible, the bottom teeth. I would avoid things like this where you can just see a tiny bit because it's just not as appealing.
Boot hills all through the west. They boot hills all through
And here I hear the TH, so again, tongue needs to be slightly out, and you need to be biting on it at least with the top teeth. Again, no teeth here.
They lie
And then another thing that I'm seeing here that I don't see it in another parts of your animation, so just be mindful, your mouth shape is very symmetrical. You're not having symmetrical shapes, for example, on this one. Look how asymmetrical it is. Like, I can even see the line of action. So just make sure that you follow that for the whole shot.
Hills all through the west. The outlaws of the west.
And then avoid here, like, if you look at the mouth corners, especially, see how basically the whole mouth is changing the shape of the mouth. Like, it's not just the mouth corner, it's actually the whole shape, the whole mouth. Everything is moving, but it's just moving the lips. Like, they are changing shape, but not even the jaw is connected. So personally, I would just stay in this shape and keep it all until here. There's no need to change it. Yeah, or earlier, whatever. Just like whatever shape you hit, that's the ones that you stay in. Here, since your mouth is already open, you can have a little bit of anticipation by slightly opening the jaw because the mouth is already open. So you can have a little bit of anticipation by opening a little bit more for the inhale.
West. The outlaws, the gun, the outlaws, the outlaws.
Here, I already hear the O, so just try to be a little bit snappier with your lip sync so that when you hear the sound, you are already in that shape. Like, again, your lip sync can be way, way, way snappier in terms of the shapes that it gets to. And let me just show something. I'm not going to show, like, ideally I always, when I teach, I just show from movies, but I'm scared that we'll get into a legal problem if I show any movies. So I'm just going to show my animation, not because I'm amazing. I'm not saying that, just to show what I'm trying to explain. Let me remember where my shots are. I'm not amazing, guys. I'm literally, I'm a nothing. No, same work. Real. Yeah, I'm not, honestly. But let me see if I can show it here. Like, for example, look at this. I go from this to open. And here I could have done it even better. Like, I'm lowering the, like that. Now I look at this, I'm like, ugh, this is disgusting. It could be so much better. But here, for example, I could have opened the mouth a little bit more on this frame. Like, I can give myself feedback and be like, oh, this looks like crap. But this, opening like this, is acceptable. You can do that. You can go into, for example, this, where I open a little bit, and then I open a lot. And then I hold even here. Like, you can push your lip sync a lot in that sense. Oh my god, I need to stop looking at this because I'm looking at all the mistakes and I want to cry. Because, ugh. Yeah, exactly. No, guys. Like, today at work, I work with someone who worked on Spider-Verse and Mitchell's versus the Machines and Storks. And he showed me his reel, and he was like, oh, just wanted to check what you think of my reel, if I should move a shot around, blah, blah, blah. And I was looking at his reel, and I thought, how am I ever going to get a job? Like, are you kidding me? Look at you. Look at the amazing things that you did. Like, holy, wow. Awesome. Great. Perfect. Then, do you have any questions, though, about anything in particular? I think, yeah, that's basically what applies to the whole shot. Awesome. No problem. I would recommend, if you're gonna do this, I would highly recommend applying it to the character moving. And in terms of, you said, oh, like, suggestions for the movement, I think it depends on the acting that you want to give it. Because you need to think, okay, who is this character? Where is it? What is he doing? Who is he talking to? All of that is going to inform the body movement. But I would definitely put that in, even if it's just in a little section, just to play with that asymmetry on the face. Yeah, for sure. Trying workflows is great. I know that this workflow that you're doing, I'm not sure if they still do it, but they used to do it a lot in DreamWorks because they used to have a very weird way of animating because of their system. And so it was easier for them to do the lip sync way before starting the shot. And then they would do the body. So this is a great workflow to try for sure. Cool. Yeah, sounds good. So is your peer buddy still here? No, it seems like they're not. Do I have anything else here? Let me check. Cool. So are you still here? Do you still want notes? Did your peer buddy give you any cool feedback? Cool. Okay, so I see that they already gave you some notes, so I'm not going to repeat what they said because I'm guessing they also probably sent you a written something, or yeah, they have notes here. Perfect. Awesome. So they already gave you those notes. I'm not going to go over those. I'm going to see what else I can find. It's okay, no problem. Be careful with this. You have a tangent here with the foot. See how this point and this line are exactly in the same place. Yeah, let me just see the shot again. Okay, he's waving at someone. So basically, going over this, maybe it's just having his face a little bit more centered. And maybe this around here. It's like, I don't mind him being unbalanced, but it feels like if he's going to be this, and if he's going to be like this, oh, I shouldn't have drawn on this frame. Maybe his weight needs to be a little bit more that way. and this a little bit more here. His proportions are so crazy. It's a really hard character to pose. Yeah, I know. I did a shot with him and it's the worst. But the thing is that Stan is that character that is really hard to animate, but if you pull it off, you're gonna love because he's very appealing. He's really hard to pose, but if it's done right, he's a very appealing character. This is you, right? This is not like your peer buddy or something. Okay, cool. So yeah, here avoid that tangent so that it's not basically this. It has to be either above or crossing that line. For this, I would try to find a little bit more of a. Oh, cool, awesome. A little bit more of an appealing pose so that it's not this. Maybe it's this. So like it rotates down a little bit and maybe these fingers are slightly bent. Just a little bit of maybe this one is also slightly bent. Just a little bit so that it's not this. Let me see this. Okay, cool. Okay, you're in class 2. Okay, cool. I forget that they changed what they do in class 2. Here also he feels very unbalanced. I feel like he needs to be a little bit more here. And maybe you can push it by just having him here a little bit more there. The reason why here he feels unbalanced is because this is his balance point. And if I could draw a straight line, let's pretend that that's a straight line. All of his weight is on this side. That's why he feels unbalanced. Yes. Even if it's the anticipation, you have to have it a little bit more balanced. Because even here, he's pushing up. Like you can push it a little bit in motion, but for this still image, it feels very unbalanced. I'm gonna be completely honest. It's 9:30 p.m. and I don't remember what fulcrum means. I'm gonna be so honest. I don't remember what it means. Okay, yeah. I kind of thought it was that, but you know when you're like, is it that? Yes, exactly. It is on this foot mostly, but even though like it's still on this one a little bit, the reason why he feels very unbalanced is because look at where the hips are and where the chest is. The way that you can make him slightly more balanced is by just rotating that chest because it feels like everything is too much to the side. That's why you use your fancy words. Here, he hasn't really gone that much forward for him to lift that foot. So either. What? Is that foot? I caught you. You think I wouldn't notice? You can't hide that from me. So here, clearly your peer buddy said it. Yeah, I know. Okay. Fix that foot. Because also, if this is where your foot is, it will mean that your character might be more forward here. And here, I would also have him a little bit more forward, just because it seems like you might be lifting this foot. I would add the ambient occlusion just to be able to see the shadows and be able to see when the character is touching the ground. But also I would move him forward here a little bit more because he's very unbalanced. It feels like all of his balance is a little bit too far forward because his hips are too far forward, and when we're kind of starting to walk, we unbalance ourselves. We unbalance ourselves forward to move forward, and then we catch ourselves with our feet. So he needs to be a little bit more forward in this one. You need a lot of breakdowns here. Not now, when you get to them. Yeah, I know. I did a shot with him. It's super hard. He's a really hard character to pose. You are definitely doing a very, very big challenge. Good luck. It's hard, but you need to find the ways to make it work. I hate to say it like that, but that's how it is. Here, it feels like he might be too rotated here. I would maybe rotate this area slightly less, just to have also, because he's bringing this in, so I think that you can relax that torso a little bit. And then here, let me just see your reference to double check something. Yeah, okay. Here, personally, I would shift his balance and line of action a little bit more this way, so that you get a bigger line of action and you push that tummy. Hey, Hugh. Yes, kind of. It's like you bring him a little bit more forward. The shoulder might end up also a little bit more forward, but the hand maybe is in the same place. In terms of, you didn't do breakdowns because it's gonna be one big move from one pose to the other. Yeah, from this to this, you're gonna have to add breakdowns. Either now or later. If you don't add breakdowns, Maya is going to, basically, because also this is a lot of frames between this and this, Maya is going to spline this and it's going to look like this. That's how it's going to look. I would maybe add negative space between this hand and the leg. I feel like it could use some. And avoid this tiny negative space is unnecessary. Here, I would actually bring his elbow out. He looks a bit awkward with his elbow that way. So I would bring it like this. So, for example, where is it? 43. Nah, never mind. And then here, start to think about your arcs. Again, once you go into your kind of your blocking plus and you do more blocking, you can start getting into more details. But if you spline this arm, Where is the next pose? It's going to just come down straight down. Well, I can't. There we go. It's going to just do this. So you need a breakdown somewhere to give it a little bit of an arc so that the hand does this type of arc. And I should have used another color to do that arc. This type of thing. If you like blocking in splines, block in splines. Like, you don't need to necessarily block in stepped. I personally prefer blocking in stepped because it's my workflow, but if you feel very comfortable blocking in splines, block in splines. Whatever gives you the best result. If blocking in splines gives you the best result, block in splines. If you are comfortable with that. If it's your first time ever animating, personally, I recommend for anyone who first starts out to block in stepped so that they can learn how to pose and they can learn how to see animation and analyze it. Because usually it's much better to see it when Maya isn't giving you things for free. But if you already know how to animate and you feel comfortable in splines, animate in splines. Whatever works for you. Yeah, I think those are my main notes. I say you need to, before you go into splines, you need to do a blocking plus, personally. That's the thing that's the thing. If you get used to blocking in stepped, you're gonna see your timing. At first, I sucked at seeing my timing. It was really, really, really hard for me to see the timing. Now I can see it and I can feel it. But I've been animating for a very, very long time now. Sometimes the problem with blocking in splines is that you think you're seeing your timing. But sometimes you don't realize that it's a lot of what Maya gave you instead of what you want to do. So I'd be careful with that. Okay, again, personally, I would add in a few more breakdowns before you go into splines, just to make sure that you don't cry. But if you're very, very, very comfortable with blocking in splines, then fine. Do whatever you want. Just be careful, because I've seen a lot of people cry. And by a lot of people, I mean myself. So yeah, do you have any questions about your shot? For the character, I would say. Again, you know what? You know how you can tell if you need more poses? Hit spline. Go in and hit spline. The parts that look weird just need more breakdowns. That's like the easiest way that you can see that you need to put in more breakdowns. Hit spline, and the parts that look like they are just moving like literally they're doing this and there's no nice motion to it, that you either do a breakdown, or if you like layered approach, you go in and start playing with the hips and then with the chest and then with the feet, whatever your workflow is. That's the best way to know if you need breakdowns. You hit spline, and if you have to cry a lot, then you needed more breakdowns. I don't think you're understanding what a breakdown is. A breakdown doesn't have to be for a specific action necessarily. For example, here, you're saying, oh, I don't need a breakdown here. Why not? Because if you think about it, a breakdown is not an action. A breakdown is how do I get from point A to point B. So for example, let's say I'm going to make this super simple, and then I'm going to send you a link to the AM campus on a lecture that is really good on breakdowns. Let's say I have a hand here and a hand here. If I don't put a breakdown, Maya is going to do this. This is going to be the movement that Maya gives me. Now, let's say I put a breakdown. I can put a breakdown like this. The elbow leads the motion, and then the hand. And then the hand reaches. So the elbow reaches first, and then the hand. What if I don't like that? And actually, I want my hand to lead and then the elbow. That's another breakdown. This is a breakdown. Breakdowns are how you get from pose A to pose B. Right now, you have pose A and pose B. How does he get there? Do his hips go up? His hips go up and then down? Do the hips swoop down and then up? Do the hips go towards camera and then to the chair? I gave you already 3 different options. 3 completely different options that are going to change completely your shot in one single thing. And I would personally add at least minimum 3 breakdowns on that area. Again, if it works for you figuring it out, thank you, AJ. That is exactly the lecture that I was going to send. That lecture, for anyone who is in the AM campus, that lecture is gold because it teaches you how to do really nice breakdowns and how to think of them. Yes, 3, because again, if you like figuring it out in spline and that is your workflow, do whatever gets you the best results. If doing it in spline gets you the best results, do it in spline. But if you're doing it in spline, you need to show a really good spline pass as you're blocking. Because spline blocking needs to be basically your spline pass. You can't just do something without thinking about it. You need to think already about your arcs, about your spacing, about the timing. You need to think about everything. That's why personally I prefer blocking in stepped, because I can't think of everything while Maya is giving me things for free. My brain just can't handle it. I prefer it in stepped. Yeah, exactly. If you block in 2s, you hit spline and you don't leave anything to chance, because basically the less poses you have, the less information you give Maya is going to do it by itself, and it's going to do whatever it wants. I'm not saying don't block in splines, because again, some people like that workflow. If it works for you, that's great. But if you're going to block in splines, what you can do is have a really nice spline pass, and if you need to show your blocking in stepped, you can bake your animation into 4s, for example, and show it that in stepped. If you're going to have a stepped blocking, I recommend adding more breakdowns. And if you can have your whole shot in blocking plus in 2s and 3s, you're set for success. I think what you're saying depends on the animator. I don't have that problem that you're saying. When I animate on 2s, I don't have that problem. Right now, I know my workflow enough to know that the more information I put, the more nuanced I will get my animation. Again, I'm not saying that not doing it is wrong. I'm saying this is my workflow. If you can fix it in spline and it works for you and you get beautiful animations with beautiful poses, beautiful shapes, beautiful spacing, beautiful timing, do that workflow. Like, there's this guy at Pixar who does layered animation, and he gets his whole blocking in splines layered, and it looks amazing. That doesn't work for me. I'm not that high level yet. I wish it doesn't. For me, the thing about, again, if you're just starting out as an animator and this is like the first thing you've animated, I recommend blocking in twos because you need to understand what you need before you leave it to chance to Maya. Yeah, of course, the walk is basically math. But for shots like this, if this is your first time doing anything, if you depend completely on Maya, you might not be learning as much as you can from this because, again, your breakdowns are where you get the personality of the character. Breakdowns are where you get the rich things about the character because you can have your key poses, but the interesting thing about animation is how you get from one pose to the other. That's where you get the personality of the character. So again, you don't want to put the breakdowns, you can figure it out in spline and you know how to do it. Do it. Nobody's stopping you. The end goal is for you to have a great shot. If that's how you can do it, do it. If it's not, let's say you go into spline and it doesn't give you the best results, then you should consider doing more breakdowns. Because again, breakdowns is figuring out the motion. If it works for you in spline, do it like that. If not, change it to what works for you. There's no wrong answer. Like, for example, let's say, well, let's use this. Let's use this as the demo that I was going to do. Let's use your shot as a demo. So the demo that I was going to do is, can I download this? Even though it's not my, I don't think I can download it. It would have been really useful if I could. No, it would be really weird if I could though. The way that I analyze my, yes, please. Can you send it? Because I like analyzing my reference in Maya, and it's super easy to do it in Maya. Let me just start setting this up. And close this. Create image plane. Okay. Cool, thank you. Do you have it in MOV? Because I don't have a way to convert it because I don't have QuickTime anymore, I think. And Maya, yeah, because Maya doesn't handle, and I can't remember if I can, thank you, because I don't think I have QuickTime anymore. And this one, for some reason, keyframe MP doesn't export to MOV, which it should be the basic, but for some reason it doesn't. Thank you. Let me see if I have QuickTime. I don't think I have it anymore. Or do I? I do, but I don't think it works that well. Let me see. If I can export it, you're free to not send it to me. But the other day I tried, half a year ago, when I tried exporting it, it didn't work. So let me just double check. Is it? Oh, it might work. Hang on. Might take a little bit, but it might work. Yeah, I think it's gonna work. Yes, it is. If anyone in the meantime has any questions while this is exporting, feel free to ask. I don't know if I will, like, maybe if anyone has a quick shot that they want me to look at, I might be able to look at it. Oh, okay, cool. That will be faster. Thank you. Oh, and this one just finished. Okay, I'll have 3 of your shots. Download. Okay, there we go. Did it finish downloading? There we go. Okay. So the way I do my reference, and I can't remember who it was that ask me for something or how I came to be, but I hope you're still here. So I create my free image plane, and I come here and I go to the attribute editor and I put my reference in an image plane. And I have to remember how to get to my folder, which I don't really remember how to do. Nope. You can tell how much I'm using this in not work hours. So now I have this. What I'm going to do, I'm not going to analyze the whole shot. I'm going to analyze the area that we need, which is, let's say, from this frame to you know what? Let's do this. The way that I put my reference is I delete the expression here and I set a key on this one. I set my frame offset. Right now it doesn't matter because the shot starts at 1, so I can just put 0, no problem. My frame out, whatever, I will leave it like that right now. And I will go to, I'm gonna guess this is at 24. Let me see. I'm not gonna guess, I'm actually going to check. What's the frame rate? 24, perfect. I don't have to worry about the frame rate. So, oh my gosh, I'm missing something here. Does anyone remember how to get the window here that shows you? Never mind. I'm super, super tired today. Okay, there we go. I set this to cycle with offset. I put view infinity. And now I have my reference playing. Now let's look at the part that we want to look at here. Let's say I'm going to look at it from here all the way up to there. So the way that I analyze my reference is I set a key at the beginning, I set a key at the end, I put this into linear, and basically that's playing my reference at the frame rate that it needs. And now all I'm going to do is go through my reference and find first I'm finding the minimum keys I need to tell the story. So that's usually for me contacts, extremes, storytelling poses. Yes, you can. Exactly. And that's another thing that I'm going to go into after. That's why I do my analysis on Maya, is because if something in my reference doesn't work, oh no, I haven't sped up anything yet. I didn't speed up anything. Right now your shot is playing at the speed that it's playing. Let's say that your shot started here and it ends here. It's playing at 24 frames per second. Right now, I did not edit your reference, but I do edit my reference in Maya so that I can do it faster. Instead of having to do it in, I don't know, Premiere, exporting, uploading to Maya, adjusting, I just do it in Maya. I don't waste time doing this because it would be a lot of time. So let's go through your reference. Okay, places where I need to key. Let's actually say that your reference starts here, just because I don't want to have to deal with that tiny foot movement. Okay, so for example, here, this frame seems to be when your foot starts lifting. So that's an interesting one to think about. But the way that I like to think about it first is, okay, let's look at the hips. What are the hips doing? It kind of seems like up to here, they could be slightly going down. Even if we don't necessarily see it, applying animation knowledge tells us that this is a place where the hips could be going down. So I'm going to set a key. I'm not doing anything right now. I'm just setting a key. And then here, this is kind of your passing. So this is a good key to have. Then this is kind of your high pose. This is your contact is kind of here. Your high pose actually could be there. Let's just... How do I analyze what I'm looking? I'm just looking right now at extremes and contacts and storytelling poses. To add the curve, you just basically, you can go to frame extension here and it's going to appear in your graph editor and you can just do this. You need to have keys here. That's why at the beginning, I set a key on frame 1 and then I set a key on frame 24 and I keyed this in 24 so that I knew that that reference was going to move from 1 to 24 in the frame rate that I needed. Then here, the whole foot plants. So that's an interesting one. And also, if I look at the hips are coming down as the foot plants. So I'm going to set a key there. Again, for anyone who was wondering about how to analyze reference, this is what you do. You go through your, again, this is for a very quick planning when you don't have time to plan. You go through your, and doing this takes you 5 minutes maximum, and it basically sets you up for your whole shot. Okay, I go through my reference, this is going down, and I scrub through back and forward, trying to find exactly the frame that I need. Here, the hips are coming up, and that foot is pushing with the foot roll, and it seems like the apex is here because around here, after this, the hips are coming down. And it doesn't have to be super precise. As long as you get pretty much there, that's all you need. And I'm not looking at the breakdowns yet. Okay, here the hand touches, so that's a good one to have. Here, your hips are going forward, and then they're going back. So I need that because it's kind of like my anticipation. So I'm going to set a key there. Your hips start going kind of backwards a little bit. So that's another thing that I need because it's a change in direction. Again, I'm trying to get all the nuance movements that I can because the best animations in terms of stylized are the ones that have information and have detail to their animations. They are not just going from A to B. There's information on how that body moves. If you're doing cartoony, then it's different. But if you're doing stylized, this is way more appealing, more interesting to watch, like the hips kind of coming backwards here and then moving down and sideways. That's more interesting than the hips not doing this. So here, this is also kind of when the foot starts moving. The foot is kind of in your passing pose here. The foot is contacting here. Where is it contacting? Here is kind of contacting. And here we have a weight shift. And before that foot lifts, I want a key so that I remember when that foot is going to lift. And then I have kind of my passing. And then first I want to go and see the contact. And then for this, it seems like around here, around up to here, if we look at the hips here are going forward. Again, I'm analyzing everything I see. And when I say analyzing, I mean I'm looking at the translations, rotations, and arcs. Contacts and all the others is the thing that I mentioned before. But if I'm looking at the hips, for example, I'm looking, how is it translating? How is it rotating? How is it doing an arc? So here, I could just put a keyframe here And that could be my breakdown. I could. It's not a bad breakdown. But if I go a little bit deeper into this, look at how the hips are moving. First, they are coming forward and rotating forward. And then they are rotating kind of in Y. But they are not rotating in Y from the beginning. They are up to here, more or less. They are just moving forward and rotating up. So I'm going to put a key there. And then here, they start rotating all the way sideways because he is the reason. And why is it happening? I don't have to just do it. I have to understand why is it happening. The reason why those hips are rotating is because this foot needs to reach sideways. And for it to reach sideways, it's the hips have to rotate the weight in order to give it more room to move. And so why didn't it happen here? Because the foot is just moving forward. If the foot is moving forward, the hips don't need to rotate. But as soon as I move that foot sideways, those hips are like, it's the same with my arms. I can do this and my chest is not rotating. But as soon as I do this, look, I swear I'm not doing this on purpose. My chest is rotating by its own because it's trying to angle everything in line with my arm, or my, in this case, the foot, the leg, so that I can have more room to move. So here I can possibly put a key around this frame. So far, so good. Then we have the full plant of the foot. And then here we have this foot roll. And again, when I'm looking right now, I'm looking kind of at everything. Then I can go into details. But right now I'm just trying to find the bare minimum. Now you understand why I'm saying you need breakdowns. Again, you're in class 2. When I was in class 2, I didn't know all of this. When I was in class 2, I remember thinking, what is a breakdown? How do I break downs? How do I animate? How? Now I understand it. But before, I didn't, and nobody explained it to me in this way. Again, this is the way I understand it. Maybe for some people, it doesn't make sense. But for me, this makes complete sense. And again, it doesn't work necessarily for cartoony animation, for example, because cartoony, all the rules don't apply. So this is mainly for stylized, and it's just reference. Reference is not copying one-to-one. This is just, like the word says, reference. It's just a baseline. It's how to see the mechanics of what you need, or the base acting. But then you need to push the poses, you need to push the acting, you need to push everything. This is just analyzing. It doesn't mean you're going to copy one-to-one. If you copy one-to-one, then go to VFX. Then here, again, I'm looking at everything. So for example, my hips are kind of going up a little bit, pretty much up till here, which matches what the foot is doing, that the foot is coming up. So I'm going to set a key here. And I'm going to show you why I'm setting keys. I'm not just setting keys because I'm bored. And then this is where the foot contacts, this foot. And I'm also looking at the hands. The hand kind of, I can push the contact here in this frame and I save a key. And then I can, like, let's look at the angle of the way the chest is coming down. Here, there's like this very steep angle. And then once it hits, it starts rotating. Okay, so then I'm going to go back to my reference. And I'm going to have the contact. And I think that's enough. Okay, so what do I do now? I have all my keys. What was this for? And these are not all the keys that I need. These are just the bare minimum that I need for me, for myself. You might need less or more. These for me are the minimum that I need for my blocking to make sense. But will it make sense? Will it be enough? Will I be in trouble? How do I know? I got you. What I do is I come here and I put it into stepped. Now, I can literally play my animation in stepped and see if I have all the info that I need. Does it read? Does it have everything that I need? Do I have chunks of animation where I don't know what I have? Or, like, for example, when I go into my blocking plus, I actually go here and I start counting my frames. So I come here and I'm like, okay, frame 7, I'm like, I have 8 frames here. 8 frames is way too much time for Maya to do whatever it wants. So personally, I'm going to want to add another breakdown here. Personally. Like, for me, because I like being very tidy, I like to have, yeah, you can speed up the action as well. Again, you can speed it up, but do you need to speed it up? If you want to speed it up, like, let's put this back into this. Let's say you want this whole section to be quicker. All of this. I can literally just come here and retime this. And now this is faster. And instead of having to go and do it in Premiere and then coming into Maya and realizing that the speed doesn't match what I need, I just do it here. It's so much faster. So much faster than having to do it anywhere else. But yeah, you can speed it up or you can add keyframes. Like, for example, here, from this to this, I have so many frames in which I didn't add any breakdowns. And I probably need them. Like right now, for my first blocking plus, I might not, for my first blocking pass, I might not need them because it just shows me what I need, like minimum. But if I want to go into the extra detail once I have my blocking pass, let's look at the tiny details. For example, look at how that foot that's lifting up is first coming back and then coming forward. So I can have a breakdown here so that I know what that foot is doing. And between this and this, look at what's happening in this part of your shot. If we look at from here to here, I could be like, oh, I can just have everything happen at the same time. Or what I can do is put a keyframe maybe here. And then I know, like for example here, like I'm not liking this, so I can change it before I block. Here, if I look at this, I don't like that the spacing of the hand moving, damn it. I don't like that the spacing of this is very even. Oh, I should have used the other. Let me switch to, no, hang on, my layers. Okay. I don't like that this, if I can draw while having this selected, is very even. It really bothers me. So I can shift this in time so that this action is actually here. And so I'm creating this type of spacing where it slows down. So I can adjust my spacing and timing as I needed. And even this will be a little bit more here. And then I don't have to worry about thinking about it when I'm animating. I already have it in blocking. And my blocking, my first blocking pass, is actually me analyzing the reference and making sure that I have all the information that I need. Yes, kind of. Yeah. It's kind of finding, it's not just finding extremes in the action and different axes. It's the axis and the extremes. It's the acting choices. It's the like the spacing. It's analyzing all of this before you start blocking anything. And this doesn't mean that once you block with this, it's going to be perfect. This takes you like 80% of the way there. Then you need to use your animation knowledge and add like the line of action, pushing the poses, pushing the timing, pushing the spacing. Sometimes I do my blocking. Like today, I was doing a shot at work and I had my blocking. My blocking had like this character was doing like this type of gesture and then this type of gesture. And in my blocking, I had her going this and this. When I hit spline, and in blocking, it looked gorgeous. But when I hit spline, I was like, it doesn't really fit the character. You know what? I'm going to make it faster. And I changed it. So it doesn't mean that this is set in stone. Like your blocking is not set in stone. Your blocking gets you really, like most of the way there, you need to have all the information. And then in spline, you adjust it to match what you need. But you're not adding anything that wasn't already there. You have most of it there and you already thought of it. Like I already had the in my brain she was going to do this really fast. But I couldn't figure it out while I was in blocking because I wasn't sure how fast I wanted it. I was like, I knew that I wanted this to be fast, but I was like, I'm just going to make it fast, but I'm going to see how it turns out in spline. And when I went into spline, I was like, yeah, I can make this faster. But for me, this method of analyzing your reference in Maya is key. It makes your life so much easier, especially because now when I have to block, what I do, it's I don't know how to pronounce his nickname. The guy who just sent the last few messages. Yeah. So when I go into blocking, how do I block this? Again, now that I've analyzed my reference, I have all the information I need. Oh my god. Nightmares. No, it's no, he doesn't look that much. No, I know what you mean, but no, he doesn't. How do I block this out? You can, it's someone from the past. How do I block this out? You can block straight ahead. If that's your workflow, do your workflow. How do I do it? Like basically, this is my method. Doesn't mean that it's the method. It's just mine that makes my life easier. How do I make my life easier? Let's take this part where there's a lot of information. I would put a key here. Let me clean this up. And if I start a new layer, it will be good. I'm going to go through this and I'm going to start thinking, okay, what do I need to block out first? I'm going to block out this pose. Why? Because it seems, no, this one, see, this one already, we don't like it. No, we don't like this pose to start with. I'm going to start with this one because it's a contact and we like contacts. It's a good way to start. And then I'm going to see all of this. What do I need? What are my checkpoints? I call them checkpoints. You can call them key poses if you want. I like to call them checkpoints because it's like my biggest changes in movement, in overall body movement, that will tell me roughly where the character needs to be in the scene. So those are my checkpoints because I need to know that I might change my checkpoint later, but that's roughly how much I need to move. Because my problem when I block straight ahead from the beginning is that I don't know how much the character moves in space. And that annoys me so much because I like to know what's happening in my shot. I like, instead of worrying all the time, I like to know, okay, I will worry about this, but I know where I'm going. Like I have a plan in my life. Yeah, you can block on contacts first, whatever you prefer. This is how I look at it. It's like, okay, this this is my biggest movement, because here, this is how far my hips are moving sideways. Like, this is as much as they move sideways. So I'm going to have this as my next one. Why? Because it's my checkpoint. Again, it's just what I call checkpoint because it helps me block my shot. I'm just explaining my method if in case it helps anyone. Then, what's my other checkpoint? I think this is a nice checkpoint because this is kind of like my how high the hips go, and also it's before he sits, so it gives me like a good midway through the motion pose. So I'm going to have this as my checkpoint, and then I'm going to have this as my checkpoint. So I have 4 checkpoints. So I would block out those checkpoints first. And now, can I move through my... I can't remember. I can't remember how to go from drawing to drawing. But basically, these are my first checkpoints. Now that I have my checkpoints, I personally just block straight ahead between my checkpoints because I know where I'm going. I like doing a hybrid method. Some people like doing like this and then going to the middle and adding breakdowns. Like I have a friend who the other day messaged me and she was like, I don't remember how to do breakdowns. How do I do breakdowns? And I was like, I don't even call them breakdowns when I'm working because, again, I have my checkpoints and then I do straight ahead. And when you're doing straight ahead, you're thinking about the motion, not so much about the breakdowns, but you're thinking about the concept of the breakdown in the sense of if, let's say, I don't know, if I'm doing this motion, I'm going to think about the breakdowns not just in terms of the motion, but I don't know, what if here actually he balances a little bit more, like he's more unbalanced, and so he brings this here. Maybe when he releases that arm first goes with the elbow down. I don't know, I'm just inventing things. That's how I would think about my breakdowns in terms of the concept, but not in terms of the name. I don't think about it like that because I do straight ahead. It's my method. It's just what works for me after trial and error of all the other methods. I tried blocking in splines. I tried straight ahead. I tried key poses only. And then breakdown. I tried all the methods. For me, this one works for my brain. If it helps you and it works for you, great. If it doesn't, whatever, find your own. But yeah, I hope that the reference analysis helped. Again, don't follow your reference one-to-one. You need to think about all the concepts of animation. This is just to get you most of the way through. Awesome. Do you guys have any questions on this, or should I close Maya? Like, if you guys are okay with me closing Maya, because once I close it, it will take forever to open it again. Awesome. Now you understand why I said you need more breakdowns. Because in my head, I like having more information in there. Oh, to key the frame Oh, don't worry. Let me show you how. Let me do. Good thing I didn't close Maya. Let me just start over so that you can see how I did it, because it will be easier than doing this. So when I create my image plane and I put my reference, I won't be able to key it right away. There we go. I will be able to see it moving, but I won't be able to key it. How do I do it? I can do it here, or I can just check this here. I go to the frame extension, and if it's purple, I won't be able to key it. So what I do is I right click and I break connections. Once I break connections, come on, break the connection. The purple will disappear, and now I will be able to key it. Sometimes Maya is a bit peculiar and I scrub through and the purple reappears. So just key this right away and you'll be able to key it. And then you can go to frame. If your reference is already in 24 frames per second, you can just go to 24 Here, write 24, and then go to the frame extension, set it to linear, set it to infinity cycle with offset, and then view infinity. Boom. Wait, I said cycle with offset. Boom, you're done. Now you have your reference. If your reference is at, like, let's say your reference is 30 frames per second, it's very easy to fix. You go to the key 24 and you write 30. Done. It's just so easy, guys. Like, everyone even at works, people ask like, oh, do you guys have any recommendations for cameras that shoot reference in 24 frames per second? Because my phone just does 30. Yeah, but reference, that's the thing. You will have frame skipping. Reference is reference. You don't need to have everything there. You have enough information with this for what you need. Reference is reference. You're not rotoscoping. So yes, you might have frame skipping, but you need to put in your animation knowledge. This is like, reference is just to help you have the idea and the body mechanics. It's not to rotoscope. Hey, if you want to film in slow motion and speed it up, whatever makes you happy, that's going to be a little bit more extreme, because going from 120 frames per second to 24 is big. Going from 30 to 24 is nothing. It's really, really, really small. But whatever, if it works for you, do whatever you want. This, honestly, from 20, like literally from a reference that is 30 frames per second to a reference that is 24 in Maya, the loss is minimal. It literally is minimal. You're not going to miss out on this important tiny detail in that one frame. If that one frame has a very important tiny detail, you should have already known about it when you did your reference and you looked at it and you're like, oh, I really like that tiny detail, I'm going to keep it in. Yeah. Yeah, or you can use a phone app that has, honestly, people worry too much about how they shoot their reference. It's just reference. It's not the thing that will make or break your animation. If you're a good animator, it doesn't matter how good your reference is. Again, if you have great reference, it helps you get there so much faster. Me, I'm not the best at reference. I suck at reference. So the way I have to compensate for that is by being better at animation than at acting. Oh yeah, retiming. I retime my reference in Maya all the time, especially because, let's say I did my shot, let's say here. I'm going to put a key here and I'm going to do this. Let's say I did this and then your mentor is like, you know what? It would be nice if he held the pose here for a little bit longer. This look. Okay. You want to have this look before he slumps down a little bit longer? Sure. And I turn this back into linear. Okay. Done. Done. It's so quick. Cool. Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna see if I can clip this part, this demo, and put it on YouTube if I understand how to do this from Twitch. And then you can share it easier, but if not, just tell people to come to our stream and see what we do here on Twitch. Like, this will be uploaded to Twitch automatically, and then we upload everything to YouTube. So, yes. So let me share all the links and even the YouTube one. Sorry, the indentation in this sucks. Yeah, okay, whatever. There are all our links. Do you guys have any other questions on this particular thing, or can I close Maya? And does anyone have anything they'll say would like to ask, or a very, very quick shot that they would like me to check out, because I'm probably going to leave in 10 minutes or so, just because tomorrow I have an interview at 7:30 a.m. and I just remember that I need to go to sleep early. But in the meantime, if no one has anything else, yeah, no problem, for sure. That's what we're here for. If no one has any other questions or things they want me to look at, or I don't know, they want to cry because animation is super hard and life is hard, and you are reconsidering all your life choices, normal, don't worry. If no one has anything like that, I will let you guys go. Reminder. Oh, yeah, I know, right? I legit think that animators are all masochists. It's the only explanation. No one who loves their lives wants to become an animator, because animation is hard and you're struggling and you're suffering. That, like, when you see people on social media all the time being like, I love my job, everything is amazing, I'm so happy. Are you though? I'm not saying I don't love my job. I really enjoy it, but I also struggle all the time and I find it hard. And every time I hit spline, a part of me dies. But then I go into polish and I'm happy again and I love it. I'm like, oh, this is why I do it. But it has its up and downs. Animation is not all fun and games. There's a lot of tears involved, and we need more people talking about the, like, not so fun part of animation, because animation is great. It's a really great job to have, but it's not all the time super, super fun. A lot of times you want to cry. Like, I've cried at my job. Not, I was working from home, so it was okay. But I was like, I can't do this. And oof. Yeah, of course. But like, I never cried at any other job that I would like. I've been through my fair share of jobs. I think I've been through 8 different types of jobs in my life. I've been a QA, a web developer, a designer for mobile games, a designer for websites, a 3D modeler, a multimedia creator, and now I'm an animator. And animation is the first job I actually cried. All the others, I never cried. But animation, you put so much of yourself in it that when something doesn't work, you feel it very personally, because you tie your emotions to your animations. Whereas in other jobs, sometimes it's easier to detach yourself from it. When I was doing websites, I could literally not care less if something didn't go the way that I wanted, because a client wanted something different. It was like, whatever, it's not my problem. You want it to suck? Okay. Yeah. But animation is also very rewarding. When you see your first, I don't know, TV show, movie, game be released, it's like, oh. And also, yeah, it's much more complicated, and animation is super rewarding because it's so complex. Once you get it right, it feels so good, and you also know that you're going to be learning forever. It's never going to be boring. You're going to always have more to learn. I don't think there's ever going to be a time when you're like, I learned everything there is to know about animation. I don't think so. Oh man, I worked doing websites for so long. Like, I started doing websites when I was 11 years old, and I worked professionally like at least for 7 years doing websites. I think so. Around, no, maybe 6 years. Oh my god, every time that I had to do a website, a part of me died. It's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I love doing websites as a hobby. Like, when I do them for myself, it's super fun and I love it. And it's like, oh, this is so easy. Like, I can build a website in a day and feel very accomplished. I'm like, yeah, this was fun, cool. But as a job, oh my god, it was so boring. Every day was the same day. With animation, no day will be the same day. Especially with all the problems that Maya has, no day will be the same day. One day, maybe everything goes well. The next day, your director wants to change your polish, and they're like, I changed my mind on the acting shot and the acting choice. Sorry. I'm 33. That's how I did so much in my life. I'm 33 and I started my first job when I was 19. So that's how. Yeah. I've been around. That's why when people cry about something, I'm like, I've been there. When I have people not knowing what they want to do with my life, oh, I'm like, oh, you're nearing 28, right? You're nearing your 30s. Dude, I was a developer till I was 31. I I was 4 months away from my 32nd birthday before I got my first studio job. It's never too late. Don't worry. Don't worry at all. And I feel you because I was a developer as well. I totally feel you. It's it was very, very, very frustrating. Wait, how old am I now? Oh yeah, 33. Yeah. So I feel you. Yeah, exactly. Especially when you come from developer, like especially web development, it's so monotonous unless you work in like I don't know, Media Monks. Then your life is a little bit better. But if not, oh yay, another recruitment website. Awesome. I'm going to use the same modules that I used in the other 15 recruitment websites that I did before. Oh, you want a button that is yellow with the white text? Okay, I don't care. I told you it's not going to read, but if it makes you happy, whatever makes you happy. In animation, you have more challenging problems. Oh, I hate databases. I hate full stack. I hate MySQL. I don't like being full stack. I was only front end because I wanted my life to be easier and I didn't want to have to deal with anything. I actually want my first degree was going to be engineering, software engineering, and then I got to learning about how to mess with the memory in the computer and how to assign memories to like different slots and release them and blah blah blah. And I thought to myself, I don't need that much responsibility in my life. I'm gonna quit, and I quit. So yeah, sorry this went into a stream about my life and what I've been through. But I hope that this shows to people that you can come from any. My lighting is changing so much. You can come from whatever background, and you can be any age. As long as you apply yourself to animation, you will get there. I come from, again, a lot of different jobs. I come from a faraway country where animation is not a big thing, where there are no good schools of animation, where getting a visa to go out of the country is really hard. It's even hard for me now. Now I'm lucky because I have a job right now, but it's really hard. Once you have your first job and you have experience, it gets easier to get visas. But even so, like I've tried to apply to a few studios in Canada and the US, and I already know from people on the inside that it's a no because of where I'm from. Whenever they say that they are equal opportunity employers, as long as you have a visa and they don't have to issue it. So it's like I understand basically all of the problems that y'all might have right now in your life. I've been through a lot of them. And still, I managed to get here. So it is possible. So doesn't matter your age. You're 32? Great. Your 30s are your best moment because on your 20s, you barely know what you're doing with your life. Your 30s are your new 20s. So doesn't matter. Just work really, really hard, make good friends, because your community is going to be like the thing that pushes you forward and the thing that's going to also give you a lot of jobs. Yeah, I can't get an open visa to Canada. I checked. It's really hard. I checked already. And honestly, at this point, I'm really happy in England. If I managed to stay here, I would be very happy because I love this country and I love Europe. And when there's no COVID, I would love to travel around. But for now, we do what we can. Uh, and there's a lot of studios here, which is really interesting. There's a lot of cool projects coming up, apparently, that I would love to be a part in. We'll see how it goes. Please, gods of animation, hear my prayers. I'm from Argentina. If you don't know where that is, that's in South America. It's literally south of South America. It's the southest you can go. But I'm in the middle of Argentina, so not super south. Ah, oh, nice! Hola! Cool. Of course you do, because you're, you're also a Latino. I've had people actually ask me where Argentina is, and I'm like, if you know about Messi, you should know where it is. Most people know who Messi is. And I don't even like football. Yeah, I know. Yeah, you'd be surprised. But yeah. The thing with Latin American countries usually is that we don't have access to good education because nobody cares about animation. We don't have access to online education because of money. The only reason I was able to do AM was because I moved to New Zealand with a working holiday visa. I saved money and then I went back to my country and I kept working for New Zealand. If I were in Argentina with Argentinian money, it would be physically impossible to pay for AM. So it's usually really, really hard. I want to do a school for my country that is affordable and it has good education, but I need to figure out how to do that. Oh, New Zealand is so beautiful. Sorry that this stream turned into me talking about myself, but you guys keep talking, so I'm talking. New Zealand is the dream, really. It's the most beautiful place with the best people that you will ever encounter in your life. It's okay. I still have, like, if I go in the next 10 minutes, it's okay because I'm good. Um, it's like the landscapes are amazing. The greens are the greenest greens I've ever. Yeah, I know, but I have time. The greenest greens I've ever seen, and the people are amazing. The only thing that is a bit is that there's not that much to do. So if you like, I don't know, for me, I like learning languages. The only languages available were very boring. They didn't have the ones that I wanted. If you want to, I don't know, learn how to do a specific activity that is very peculiar, it's very hard to find it because there's not that many people in the country, so there's not that much. But if you want to retire, New Zealand is the place. So cool. It's then if you want to go on holidays, it's fantastic. So many great things to do, especially if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, like I am. It was heaven. Yeah, exactly. There's like 4 million people in the whole country, and in my country, the capital city, which is tiny, has 4 million people. So, ooh, nice. Yeah. I was staying in Auckland, so I mostly did North Island, but I went to the south and it was amazing. It was very crazy though because we went to see the glaciers and they showed how much, like how far they used to be and how far back they are now, and it was intense to see that. But I loved it. Loved, loved, loved. So if anyone wants to go on holidays when COVID is done, oh yeah. All I couldn't go to Mount Doom, which I still regret. I wish I could go, but the day I was going to go, there was a thunderstorm, blizzard. I don't know. There were like 3 deadly things happening in Mount Doom. In what's the name of the? I call it Mount Doom because it's easier, but I can't remember the name of the actual mountain. But I definitely would recommend going there and going to see. There's like yes, exactly. It's like middle of the North Island. I would recommend going to see the glowworm caves. Are so pretty. They're like these caves with that you go in a boat and they are dark, but there's tiny bugs that emit blue light, so it looks like a starry night. So pretty. I love it. It's fantastic. It's a great country. We love it. Definitely go. If anyone wants to go, do a lot of like work on really good films and then you can go into Weta. The glowworm caves. I think it was kind of in the center. And it was in North Island. It wasn't in the south, it was in the north. But I can't remember. I think it was Waitomo Caves. Let me just check. Yeah, it's called the Waitomo Caves. And it's north what is this side? East, no, west, northwest. Yeah, it's a fantastic place. Definitely recommend. So, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna let you all be free from this stream. Have a great day. Have a great night, whatever it is. Tomorrow, 1 p.m. PST, feedback with Madison. She's amazing. We love her. And then Saturday at 1 p.m. PST, Q&A with Taylor Gessler and Robert Lanning, who are incredible animators and a superpower couple. If you want to send questions for Taylor and Robert, feel free to send them on Discord or on our Instagram. Thank you. Have a great one. Bye.